Hello and welcome to the Top Corner podcast, episode number 35. That's right, we are back. After a long wait for the beginning of the start of the season, we have returned. We've got lots of football to talk about, a brand new season ahead, and well, it's been a hectic summer. Joining me as always, we have Kieran L, Kieran D and Rowan. Over the next hour, we're going to be predicting the season ahead. So sit back, relax and enjoy, because finally, after a 2-month wait, the Sports Corner podcast is back, and we've got to let that intro finish off. They can't hear it, but I can, and it's nearly done. Here we go. Oh, that is lovely. Of course, boys, it's been 2 months. How have we all been? I hope you're all good.
I'm great, thank you, Josh. How are you?
I'm not too bad, thank you very much. I'm going to turn you guys up very slightly. There we go. How are you doing, Kieran's?
I'll take the reins first. From one Kieran, it's all right. It's just good to kind of refresh the system because we had a little bit of 2-week break with nothing, and we've obviously stopped the podcast. But delighted to be back and talk some more football with all four of you rather than two of us on a watch along.
Oh yes, I second that.
It's fantastic, isn't it? It's been a long time for us now. It's been, well, as we said just a moment ago, 2 months since we last did the podcast, and we hope you're all good and well. It's been a very hectic start to the season, of course. We've had a lot of football going on. In the meantime, it's been a busy summer, whether it be transfer rumours, just the Champions League, of course, we had at the beginning of the summer. And it's great to be back once again with a brand new season. Technically, of the podcast, it's like a new season for us, but this is episode 35. It's going to be a little bit different to what we would usually do for this specific episode because some of the leagues have already started up. We know that Liga has already begun. Bundesliga begins this week. Premier League start up. And what we wanted to do to really kickstart this season is make our predictions for the seasons ahead. Now, luckily, we're not too far into the seasons to really be ahead of the game to know who's going to win the leagues and things like that. So what we're going to do in today's episode is we're going to go through the 5 main leagues across the 5 divisions of Europe. So England, Italy, France, Germany and Spain. We're going to predict our top 4 for the German, French, Italian and Spanish leagues. And then the Premier League, we're going to get our top 4 and we're going to include our relegation candidates for the Premier League only. Now, the reason why we haven't added the other 5 leagues is because not necessarily didn't want to do them, but it's very likely, I think, a lot of us were going to go for the teams that have already come up from their previous divisions to go straight down again, and maybe 1 or 2 clubs that have stayed in Serie A or Liga, let's just say, that would go down as well. But for the Premier League, as I said, we're going to put our relegation candidates in there. We're going to leave the Premier League to last. And to top it off, at the very end, we will then talk. We've picked out our major goal scorers across the 5 main leagues on who we think, of course, is going to win the top Golden Boot across them. And then I think I'll actually ask you at the end as well, who do you think is going to win Golden Boot across Europe? So that'll be an interesting question. But as you can see, things are slightly different. We're looking to do a bit of a change for the podcast this season. Of course, it was our first year doing the show and things are a little bit different. We're going to record episodes for now, see how they go, because we haven't got the availability right now to use the studio, which is a little bit unfortunate for us right now, but it does mean we can record them, sit back, relax a little bit more. So we're going to do that. You can see I've got the green screen behind me as well. We've got plenty of other things on the channel to look forward to alongside the podcast. But without further ado, boys, I think before we actually go into all of the talk, should we have a little talk about the summer? Because it's been a very, very hectic summer indeed. So let's talk about the summer. It's been a very, very busy period over the last couple of weeks. Of course, we did the Champions League not too long ago in the Europa League watch-alongs. That was a very interesting time, of course, very different tournament. We spoke a lot back then about what we thought about the tournament or not. We've had a little bit of time now afterwards to delve over the whole process of the Champions League. It was kind of our summer of football, really, instead of the Euros. Do you think we will see that ever again, or was that just a one-off, you think, and maybe we should just have enjoyed that period of the Champions League and go back to the way it really should be? Who wants to go first?
You select, Josh. You pick one of us.
Ooh, I'll go for Rowan.
I liked it. I love a good tournament. And that's what it felt like. When your Euros come around and your World Cup, it's like, we've got all these games coming at once time. I think the Champions League is great, and the Europa when it's spliced in. But imagine the end of the season. Well, the season would obviously end early because you're not playing these European fixtures. No, they play during the week, but you know what I mean. They get a less holiday, so you still get to play Champions League, but you just play at the end of the season, and you have a good 4-week block where maybe it's only the knockout games that are played after, but you have them every day, and it was that excitement of, oh, we've actually got some more games tomorrow, and then more games after that, and then wait a couple of days, more games after that. It was just a consistent chain of good football.
Is anybody in the camp of disagreeing? Because I think it was our actual one of our watch-alongs, Kieran, now, where we really sat there and we dived into whether we thought this was the right thing for the future. And I know it was a couple of weeks ago, this tournament, but it's still very relevant now because the Champions League does start up in a couple of weeks' time. I think in that point you said you was against the idea of having these one-leg games. Are you still in that camp now, or has your opinion changed?
Yeah, I'm still in that camp. I think it's one of them where, for this unprecedented time, they did an unbelievable job at working with what they had and trying to create the most enjoyable fan viewing experience. And I think that's what they really did achieve. However, it was all that talk of, I think we spoke just like, it was never broke in the first place. Like, if an unprecedented global pandemic didn't happen, we wouldn't be having this conversation. So for me, maybe I'm just a geek for normality. But I prefer the Champions League being as part of the regular season, 2 legs as they usually were, and then leave the Euros for international football to get its shine, because I know most of us during this regular season are going, rolling our eyes, it's international football, whereas the summer, we all get excited about it when it's a big tournament. So let that spotlight shine on that, and the Champions League will be as magical as it always is over 2 legs.
Absolutely. Kieran D, are you in the camp of disagreeing or agreeing with the system of the one-legged games?
I think I'm going to agree with KL. The only problem for me with the Champions League Europa games is just the away goal rule. I think if you get rid of that, that's probably the only thing that could be changed. But apart from that, I think the 2 legs works fine. I think the 1 leg, like Kieran said, works well in these weird times for him. But I think 2 legs is just absolutely fine. Like Kieran said, if it's not broke, don't fix it.
Absolutely. It was a fantastic tournament to watch. We had some really, really good games. And of course, tell us in the chat. I know it's a few weeks after the tournament, but tell us in the comments, what do you think? Do you think in the future we should have these one-legged games, or do you think we should stick with the usual 2-legged fixtures? Tell us in the comments. Also, of course, the summer has had a very busy section of transfers going on now. Of course, I haven't even asked you guys the question about your clubs. Usually we start off with that. Kieran, we'll start off with you in the top left. Hull City, of course, who unfortunately got relegated at the end of the season. It's a very different time for you now. A lot of transfers. Is it the start of a rebuilding?
I like to think so. The post-December capitulation of my club last year, it's unacceptable at any level. So lots of changes were needed. I think as a fan base, we were hoping from the top through, from the owners to the manager, all of them, we wanted them all out come the end of last season. But we were saying over the summer that we needed a good start. And so far, when this has been recorded, we've had a very good start. We're yet to be beaten this season, which is quite nice over Cup. Oh, apart from Leicester's under-23s, but we played our under-12s, so it doesn't matter. But in terms of transfers, I think we spoke last night while I was watching the Leeds game. We've added a lot of grit, a lot of steel in that midfield with the addition of Richie Smallwood, who is a true leader. And we were watching the team, and we finally got players in that fight for the badge, which is what we lacked last year. Add the creativity of Greg Docherty, gives us something going forward. And finally, I believe there's enough in that squad. The 2 debutant centre-backs last night, Alfie Jones, Jacob Greaves, played the other night. I'm pretty happy with our window of and we're instilling some youth in KLP. So overall, couldn't have asked for any better summer, even though last season was quite shit.
But at the time we were recording this, of course, last night it was the Carabao Cup. A big win against Leeds. It was a great game of football. We sat, me, you, and Rowan. We watched that game, and it was really good. And you can see now with Hull City that there is a rebuilding project going on, and hopefully we might see Hull City back in the Championship next season. Fingers crossed. We'll drop down to Rowan, Oldham, of course. We like to talk to you about them. They had a very decent start to the season, didn't they? Carabao Cup win. Where do you think they're going to finish this season?
7th. I don't see progression really until next year. I mean, when we went off, Dino Mountry was still our manager. It's insane. Harry Kewell's come in. He's brought in a lot of players. I mean, I've just got the list. We brought in Ian Lawler, goalkeeper, Borthwick Jackson, John Batte, Perugiani, Jameson. I think Jordan Barnes or might be called up from the youth, and Andrea Bedan. In the midfield, Ben Garatek, Karen Whelan, Keeler Dunn, Bobby Grant, all have come in. Up front, George Blackwood, Conor McElhenney, and then we've got a couple of other youngsters called up, and we've signed players. We've actually brought players in that are not French from the second division, which we absolutely love to do in the past seasons. So it's really genuine that Harry Kewell wants to make a change. The problem is with Oldham, we know the owners pick the team, and it'd be very interesting if Harry Kewell has got full reign, and if the owners will say, "Do whatever you want. We'll actually manage it as a club, not as we want to be the managers technically." Yeah, we got a great first win in the Carabao. We lost 1-0 to Leyton Orient very late on, which is not what you want to see, but it was still a half-decent performance. We'll ignore the 1-0 loss to Morecambe in the Carabao. But I think for Oldham it's too early to tell. I think at least with Hull, you're coming down from the Championship, you technically should go back up. With Oldham, no one knows it could really go. We get that top 10 finish, which we want, or it could be mediocrity, or it could even be relegation. It's really all to do with how all these new players. We've obviously still got David Wheater, my boy. So we still get in. It'll be an interesting time for Oldham because I think, unlike nearly everyone's club, you've all, apart from Hull, you've all had a good season last year. With obviously Rotherham getting promoted, United getting Champions League football, and I'd say that your start to the season, unbeaten, haven't played, but you've signed Donny van der Beek, and it's hard for us to say, oh yeah, well we've done this. And for us, it's a waiting game.
Could be indeed very topsy-turvy season. It could be. One question for you boys about Oldham: do you think Harry Kewell will be there by the Christmas period, or do you think he'll be gone by then?
Give it 5 games and look at our win-loss record. If it's positive, he'll stay. If it's negative by 1, he will go. I hope he stays. I hope they actually have faith in the manager. But
fingers crossed. It's a very interesting season. Very topsy-turvy it could be for Oldham. I mean, as you said a moment ago, we've made a couple of signings as well. A couple of players. We signed a striker yesterday, George Hurst. We love going to Leicester City to sign players at Rotherham United. You know, Iverson in the past. We brought George Hurst in. We brought in another goalkeeper, Victor Johansson. We've got a lovely 1-0 win at the weekend against Wycombe, which was actually, I said to the guys before, the game in the EFL that's had the least amount of time where the ball's been in play. 35 minutes, which was absolutely mental. But yeah, no, looking forward to the season ahead as a Rotherham United fan, of course. And then,
where do you think they'll finish before you go? Where do you think they'll finish?
I mean, I've got to stick with what I've said in my predictions, or else it makes me look a bit of a topsy-turvy guy. Do you know what I mean? I said we will scrap till the end, but I think we might go down. But you never know. We've made a couple of very good signings indeed, and you never know what the season can bring. It's going to be an interesting one for us. I think we could be very topsy-turvy ourselves. But we've got to go on to the last team, of course. Manchester United last season clawed the Champions League late on in that game against Leicester City. It's been an interesting transfer window for you, hasn't it, Kieran D? Because, of course, you brought in Donny van der Beek from Ajax, a fantastic signing that I think there'll be a lot of clubs out there that will have been very desperate to bring him in at some point, including the likes of Barcelona, of course. But there's been a couple of other players in the transfer window that you've wanted to sign, Sergio Reguilon being one of those players. What do you make overall of the transfer window, and do you think Manchester United can fight at the upper echelons of the Premier League this season?
I mean, I'm going to sound like a spoiled child when I say that the one signing's not enough, but 40 million, of course, is a lot of money. I know I can see Rowan's face, but I know you guys would spend 40 million. But if we want to get back to the best, we have to buy more players. There's some players at the club that just aren't good enough, depth-wise and stuff. I know I do sound like a spoiled child, but I just want to see my club be the best again, which is just normal for any fan of any club. Speaking of last season, yeah, we had a really good end to the season, beaten since January. The effect of Bruno was absolutely massive on our club. He is probably one of, if not our best player. Of course, the transfer window is so difficult for any Manchester United fan because I think last year we were linked with over 100 plus players. This season it's going to be probably close again. It's just more of the same, really. I'd like to see us sign a few more players. Personally, myself, I just cannot see it happening. We start the season in 2 days, less than 2 days, no, 2 days. So our starting 11 for that is going to be probably the exact same as last season, because I don't think Van der Beek will start.
It's a real shame because, as I said before, linked to a lot of players. Reguilon was one of the players that you were linked to. Of course, it looks like he's now going to Tottenham. Whether this is official by the time that this video goes live, I'm guessing it might be. But there's a couple more weeks left of the transfer window. I think we're about 2.5 weeks away from it shutting, which of course we're going to do a transfer deadline day stream for that. You keep your eyes out for that one. But do you think you'll see maybe 1 or 2 more faces come through the door, or do you think this is it? This is going to be the squad you're going to have for next season?
No, I honestly don't think we'll get anybody else now. I think this is probably the squad we're going to have for next season. I'm hopeful though, because of course we haven't beaten since January, and I'm looking forward to the new season.
That's the thing. I mean, of course, our seasons have already started for us. Manchester United with their run, of course, in the Europa League means that they've started a little bit later on. So looking forward to seeing them play against Crystal Palace. It might be actually on today as the video goes live on Saturday. But, of course, that's our seasons for our clubs. Hopefully your clubs are all doing well too. But one final thing to talk about, as we said before, about the transfer window. Lionel Messi. I think it's the story that has gone on for the majority of the summer. It's now officially over. He was linked, of course, with a move to Manchester City. He came out publicly in an interview with Goal.com and said he did actually want to leave Barcelona after such a long period at the club. He's been there since he was a youngster. And he feels like the whole system right now at the club just isn't steering towards the next level, and they're getting left behind to the likes of the Real Madrids and teams like that. Do you think Messi made the right decision to stay, or do you think that this should have been the time to leave and have his final swan song? Kieran, now you're shaking your head.
Yeah, he should have left. He should have left. Yeah, admittedly, I don't think it's his fault. Even though I'm going to make points where it sounds like I'm going, well, he should move to a different league and test himself. It's not his fault. He wanted to leave. But I think it's every single summer. I think it was really, do you know when Ronaldo moved to Juventus, I truly believe that most people thought he was just going to stay at Real Madrid for the rest of his career because he was putting up unreal numbers, and that's what Messi has done. But for me, Messi, he was never going to move. I think we said it. I think Josh, when the rumour first came out, we thought it was a massive power move to get a new contract, to get something else, and it looks like he's just been held against his will. I hope he leaves at the end of his contract, which I think is the end of this season. I'm not sure. But finally go and test himself in another league, because Ronaldo's done it in 3. Messi's done it in 1, and yeah, he's putting up unreal numbers, but he's playing the okay competition every week, where I'd like him to go somewhere else, play a different style. I mean, would Italy bully him? I know it's different in the Champions League over a one-legged fixture, but them defenders are rough and tough in Italy, so I want to see it, because that's the problem with Messi I have is there's always question marks over his career. International level, can he do it? No, he hasn't proven it at all. Champions League in recent years, can he do it again? No. Can he do it in a different league? No. But these things we'll never know if he retired from Argentina like he said he was going to do. So if he can at least tick one of them boxes, then he doesn't have anything to prove, but it'd be nice for fans, I think.
Is anybody in the camp of disagreeing and thinking he's made the right decision to stay?
A little, because I'm not going to say his run is his leg 6. It won't if he goes to different. In terms of, if let's say he left Barcelona and was dog, and I mean no double figures what you expect from Messi, people would go, oh well, he's supposed to be best player in the world, thingy. And it's one of the things. It is, like you said, was it a power move? I do think he should have left, by the way. I really do. The problem is, a year later, will he have the same desire to go to another big club? I hope he will. I think he will. He's one of the best players in the world, up to personal debate. It's such an awkward choice, because you'd love to see him at Barcelona and be that one club man and end his career there. But the way they treated him, I think he needs to not end his career there. I'd love to see him in a league that doesn't get enough shine in terms of English fans. We watched the Bundesliga so much, yet as soon as the Premier League went back, because I've got Farmers League gone, it's like the Bundesliga incredible. Imagine Messi there. Probably it would be Bayern. I think is the only side you go to. Maybe Dortmund, but I don't think they're willing to pay his wage. And MLS is another one now, retirement home and all that. The MLS is an entertaining league. I've watched so much of the highlights and the coverage, the amount of numbers he went. Look at Ibra. Ibra must have brought in quite a bit of numbers to the MLS. Messi is above that. Imagine if he went there. Go for pay, who cares? But really can elevate that league. So I'd like to see him leave. I would.
Well, Kieran D, I mean, it was very unlikely, but he was, of course, linked with Manchester United, as he always probably is. He was, the teams that he was linked to were Manchester City, PSG, United, Juventus, all these big clubs that have the finances. It was never going to happen for Manchester United because they never wanted him in the first place. But are you in the camp of agreeing that he should have stayed, or do you think he should have gone? Because I'm guessing for you, you're just very happy he hasn't joined Manchester City.
No, I mean, he should have gone, in my honest opinion. I think he and Barcelona have bottled their best chance to not necessarily get rid of him, but end this situation like Kieran said that happens every single bloody year. There just needs to be, there's just this revolving door system with Messi and Barcelona. It's just never ending, and I think, as Kieran said as well, it would have been the best chance for him to go test the waters in different leagues, and I would have liked to see him play in the Bundesliga, like Rowan said, or the Italian league. To be back against Ronaldo, potentially play with Ronaldo. But yeah, for me, that just shows why Cristiano Ronaldo will always be better than Lionel Messi.
It's a very interesting debate indeed. And of course, it will be something that I think will go on for the next year. Of course, as Kieran perfectly said earlier, his contract does run out at the end of this season. So whether Messi will stay or not at the beginning of next season, or whether he's at a new club, we'll have to find out. But of course, there's been other transfers going on as well. Gareth Bale looks like he's going back to Spurs. Reguilon looks like he's going to Spurs as well. So big deals going on. And as I said before, transfer deadline day is on October the 5th. You'll be able to join us live for deadline day. It's going to be a little bit different to last year. We're not in the studio this time, but we are going to try and work out the very best we possibly can to bring you deadline day live. But keep your eyes out for it because that is on October the 5th. And I'm guessing you guys are just very happy you won't be melting to death in the studio like you were last time.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was fun, but also like heat stroke. Come on.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't there, so I can't say, but it did sound very awful in terms of the heat from when I was watching them. But keep your eyes out for that October the 5th for transfer deadline day. So we're now going to move on to our main section of the podcast today. And as I said, it's going to be a little bit different to usual. Next week, we'll go on to the a normal version of the podcast. There's a few slight changes going to make from last season's podcast. So keep your eyes out when we upload that. I think that's going to be, of course, on a Wednesday when we upload it. But we'll be recording the episodes, I think, a little bit earlier than a Wednesday. So we might be slightly changing things up. But in today's episode, as I said at the beginning, we're making our predictions for the seasons ahead. So we have our 5 major leagues. We've all made our predictions for the top 4 and the major goal scorers. We'll come on to the major goal scorers at the end of the podcast and talk through our decisions. But we are going to start off with the Bundesliga for this section. Now, the Bundesliga, it was the first major league that came back at the end of last season. We did our watch-alongs for it, so the knowledge might be there a little bit more than some of the other leagues. But the real question is, who has predicted who? So for you guys at home, you're going to be able to see on the screen right now the predictions that the boys have made, including myself, for the top 4 in the Bundesliga. Now, I'm going to start off with Kieran D. You can see myself at the top. I'll make mine at the end. Kieran D. He has gone for his top 4. Bayern Munich, Borussia Dortmund, Mainz, and RB Leipzig. And you can see across the board, there's a couple of very interesting predictions that the boys have made. But Kieran D. Mainz finishing 3rd. Interesting choice.
Oh, they're my adopted German team for sure. I absolutely love Mainz because of a certain centre mid / right back that plays for them. It could be because they're always good on Football Manager, as we all know. But realistically, I've only done it because I kind of like have a little romance going on with Mainz. But the other 4, I think Leipzig are definitely going to drop down the table in some sort of aspect because you're taking Timo Werner's goals out of them. Leverkusen as well, they're probably going to drop down the table. They're losing Kai Havertz. I think the front 2 are definitely going to be Dortmund, Munich and Dortmund. I think that is cut and pasted onto everybody's predictions for Bundesliga.
You are absolutely spot on. You guys at home, you can see on the screen right now everybody's top 4 candidates. We've all put Bayern Munich first, and we've all put Borussia Dortmund second. Do you guys think maybe there's an outside chance that Dortmund could win the league or one of any other sides, or do you think it is just going to be once again a Bayern Munich whitewash?
We watched Bayern Munich play in the Champions League, and if they play anything like that, they will absolutely whitewash the league.
You would expect them to.
Last year for me was Dortmund's chance, the original period under Niko Kovac, where it was really, really turbulent. They couldn't find the results they wanted to find. Really underwhelming performance after underwhelming performance. So I feel if you're a team that's underneath Bayern Munich, do you remember when Leipzig were top for a couple of months? So that was the year for a team to really take over. And because no one took that shot, Bayern are just going to continue their dominance, I think.
You would expect them to. I think, Rowan, you're agreeing as well. Do you think...
Yeah.
Bayern Munich seems a little bit too hot to handle?
I love Dortmund. I really do. That Bayern side is incredible, and they've strengthened it. They've obviously lost Thiago today, but I know they have a direct replacement. But they brought in Leroy Sané, who is an incredible thing. Perisic, did he return?
He's left now.
Did he return to parent club? Yeah. But you've got Sané there. Your midfield, anyone can slide into that midfield and not feel any different. I think the teams below them, I think Leipzig need a striker to try contest. I think Dortmund, in a couple of years, will be able to contest. I think they're really heavy on that youth, and I hope they can actually keep them. And then you've got your Gladbachs and Leverkusen, which I don't think are there yet. I think they need something, but I think Dortmund will run away. Bayern will run away with it.
So we've all agreed there with the top two. So that's Kieran's predictions, of course. Kieran D's, he's gone Bayern Munich, Dortmund, Mainz and Leipzig for the top four. We'll move on to Kieran L's predictions. Of course, as I said before, we've all gone for Bayern Munich and Dortmund first and second. You've gone for RB Leipzig third. An interesting choice. Hertha Berlin fourth. Now, they've made a lot of signings, Hertha Berlin. Lucas Toussaint, he was signed last season to come in this season from Lyon. They've just recently announced John Cordoba from FC Cologne. He's been fantastic in the Bundesliga last season, and now he's joined the club. You think that they could potentially get into the top four? Is that an outside shout?
Yeah, of course it is. There's always the similar suspects. I think, obviously with Hertha Berlin, you're taking a massive gamble with the amount of signings they've made. Will they all blend? Will they all work under this manager? You're not quite sure, but you don't go anywhere if you don't take a punt. But I'm looking at that strike force, and it's so rotational. You've got Piatek, you've got Cunha, you've now got Cordoba, so you've got a plethora of attacking options. I still think they need to shore up that defence a little bit. Call me a Dedrick Boyata hater, but I am, so I don't think he's good enough to be in that league and dominate. But we talk about the other teams, and really every team's got worse. Hertha Berlin are getting better, whereas the other teams around them are getting worse. The likes of Leipzig, we've already spoke, losing Werner. Yes, they've still got a brilliant team outside of that, so that's why I put them in there. Leverkusen have lost. They didn't even get Europe with Havertz. So without Havertz, I don't think they're going to get Champions League football. And the only team that kind of stayed the same was Mönchengladbach. However, they've got to contest with Champions League football. So they're going to have their focus on lots of multiple things, whereas I believe Hertha Berlin could just fire and go straight for what they need to do. And it might not be top four this year, but if they do get Europe, it's a successful season for Hertha. And it was an outside shot, but who wants to see the same top fours, eh?
It's a very, very good shout indeed. As you said, the plethora of attackers they've got up top. Luca Bacchio as well, another one of their players that they've got. They've got a great attack. Could improve that defence. They've got Rekic, Boyata there at the back, but they are a very good outside shot indeed. Of course, Leipzig third as well in your prediction too, losing a couple of players. We'll move on to Rowan. Rowan has gone for Bayern and Dortmund first and second. RB Leipzig third. Augsburg fourth. Now, Augsburg, they were a very topsy-turvy side in the Bundesliga only a couple of years ago. I remember them finishing the Europa League. I think they were in there for the preliminary stages. Then, a couple of seasons now, they're towards the bottom end of the table. You think, potentially, there's a chance of a resurgence and maybe a nice shock surprise of the Bundesliga?
With a couple of the leagues, I've gone for the top three that I definitely think happen. The fourth random one that might just happen, and I saw that Augsburg with the basically they were the worst team in terms of that stayed up apart from Werder Bremen, but Werder Bremen went to relegation playoffs. Augsburg finished 15th, right? And just because I wanted something out of the blue, I've gone for them finishing fourth. Just think they're gonna rebuild. They tanking. They were tanking last year for fourth. They're getting fourth this year. Bayern first easy. Dortmund second. They still got class. Leipzig is my only worry. To be honest with my team, because Timo Werner is such an asset, and they haven't really replaced him. They've got Hwang Hee-chan in, but I don't know. I've gone for Augsburg, but if you want a proper realistic one, it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be Mönchengladbach or Leverkusen again. But I'm gonna go for Augsburg. They're gonna shock everyone. Trust me. If Paderborn were in there, Paderborn a thingy, be getting fourth.
Do you know what, though?
Unfortunately, they didn't get to stay up.
We love an outside punt, and that's what we've got. We've got quite a lot of outside punts on these predictions, so keep your eyes out because there's some interesting choices across the board.
Well, because Augsburg did win 7-0 in the DFB Pokal first round. Ignore who they were playing. Ignore that.
Maybe
they won
that's
7-0.
That's the confidence booster to win the title. You never know. And the thing is with the Bundesliga...
5-4.
Yeah, they did indeed Hertha Berlin. They did lose 5-4. I mean, that's the good thing with the DFB Pokal. It's a crazy competition because there's quite a lot of upsets in it. But you never know with the Bundesliga. It's very topsy-turvy. I remember the season where Wolfsburg finished second, then dropped to 8th, and then finished third bottom and had to go into a relegation playoff battle. So it can happen, and that's the great thing with the Bundesliga. But we like an outside punt from Rowan there. And as you can see, for my prediction, I've gone for Bayern Munich and Dortmund first and second, as everybody else has. RB Leipzig in third. And I've gone Gladbach in fourth, because I think although they've got to juggle Champions League football, they haven't lost any of their significant players. Not one of them. The only player they've lost is Raphael, the Brazilian veteran, who, let's be real, wasn't really playing for them anyway, often, but they've kept the likes of Zakaria, they've kept the likes of Elvedi, Plee, Thuram, you name them, they've got them, and I just think with a couple of weeks left of the window, they might maybe bring in one or two more players, and I think they've got the depth to be able to juggle the Champions League and the Bundesliga. And I think, as you guys said, you look at some of the other sides perfectly. As you said, Kieran L., the fact that Leverkusen couldn't even get into the Europa League with Havertz means that you'd expect them to struggle a little bit more this season. And I think we might see them finishing towards 6th and 7th. And I think an outside shot that people haven't put on the board, you could say two, actually. Hoffenheim, who had a fantastic end to the Bundesliga season. I think it said something like the last 6 games they would have finished second in the league, but of course that's only 6 games. And Wolfsburg as well, who were fighting towards the European spots towards the end of the season. They made a couple of fairly decent signings. And you never know what can happen with the Bundesliga. So once again, you can see on the screen right now, there's the predictions for the Bundesliga. Put your top 4 predictions in the chat as always. It'd be nice to see who you think is going to finish in the top 4. But we're now going to move on to the Ligue 1. We're now going to move on to the Ligue 1 for our top 4 predictions. I'm going to bring them up on the screen in a moment. Of course, Ligue 1, known by many as the Farmers League, but they had 2 sides that finished in the Champions League semi-finals. Of course, Lyon, who had a very good run, of course, impressing against Manchester City. And they tried a very valiant effort against Bayern Munich, of course. And we also had PSG, who finished in the final, of course. Lost out at the end. They've not had the greatest start to the season in Ligue 1. But as you can see on your screens now, interesting choices across the board here. There's 3 of us that have gone for PSG finishing top of the league. But we like a punt on this channel. Kieran D, you've put Lyon finishing top. So I'm going to go to you first. Your predictions for the top 4. Lyon to finish first, PSG to finish second, Marseille to finish third, and Lille to finish 4th. Now, of course, I expect this one to be a bit of an outside punt with Lyon. Why have you put them finishing top?
This is going to definitely contrast with one of my future picks, but because they've got Memphis, if they keep Memphis Depay, then they've got a massive chance. I'm just sick of PSG winning it. I think we're all sick of PSG winning it. I just thought I might as well change it up, go for some a little bit like Rowan did with Augsburg. And I mean, PSG have not had the best starts. Of course, they've got 3 points from a possible 9 games. Lyon have got 4, of course. 1 more, so it's a good start for Lyon. Why not? Why the bloody hell not?
We like a punt. And as you said, of course, it's whether keep Memphis Depay or not, which will actually be coming back to that point a little bit later on. PSG second, of course. I'm guessing you expect them to finish third, but we like the punt. Marseille in third. They've, of course, got Champions League football this season, had financial fair play issues themselves, which I think they've now nearly got sorted out, which is fantastic. And Lille 4th. Now, Lille, they've lost a lot of their big stars once again. The most notable big star, Victor Osimhen, who's now moved to Napoli and had a fantastic pre-season in Italy. Do you think they can do it once again and get back into the Champions League?
Yeah, I think they've got the squad for it. They proved a few times in the Champions League, of course they did come bottom of their group, but they're a tricky side to beat, and they're a good side in France. They're one of those teams that it's just a little bit similar to Monaco. It's either hit or miss, really, isn't it, with teams like Lille, Monaco? But I've gone for Lille going fourth, just nicking that. I think it's Europa League spot in France.
It would be indeed. So that is Kieran D's predictions, Lyon, PSG, Marseille and Lille. We're going to move on to Kieran L's predictions. You can see roughly it's very similar in terms of the choices of teams, but a slight tweak of where these teams finish. So we've got PSG finishing first, of course. I think most people are expecting that anyway. Monaco to finish second. I'll come back to Monaco in a moment. Marseille finishing third. You've also picked that alongside Kieran D. And Lyon to finish fourth. Monaco, interesting choice. They've been lingering towards the mid-table for the last 2 seasons, had multiple changes in managers, and in fact, of course, this season they've now got Niko Kovac as their brand new manager, former Bayern Munich and Frankfurt manager. They've got some decent players in their side, the likes of Fabregas, who might be getting on with age, but he's still a very good veteran midfielder to have, and the standout player, of course, Wissam Ben Yedder, who was at Sevilla not too long ago, finished as the Liga top scorer last season, joint with Mbappe. You think there's a potential chance for Monaco to get back into the Champions League again? Do you think it's because they haven't got European football, or do you think they've made a couple of good signings?
It's a contributing factor, but I also believe that they've had a good enough squad. Like, you know, they're kind of rebuilding what was weird for Monaco, because they had them glory days and then the low times, and it's amazing that this all happens in the period of like 5 or 6 years. It wasn't too long ago that they had that golden generation. So I do still believe they're rebuilding from that phase, which was, let's be fair, a mass exodus. That comes with doing well, sadly. It's like when Ajax got to the Champions League semi-finals and half their team got lost. So I believe they're finally on their way back up. I think Ben Yedder was an absolute coup last season to get him for the price they did, and he's still scoring goals. He's a little bit older than what he was, but they also spent big on the likes of Gelson Martins, who I think we yet to see the best of him in Ligue 1. So if all the contributing factors come together, there is no reason why I can't see Monaco pushing PSG all the way, due to the fact that PSG have had a crap start and Monaco is still unbeaten. So that could also help.
They are indeed very good runs so far for Monaco. Got some fantastic young players in the side. Badiashile being one of those, the young defender who's been linked with moves to the Premier League, including Manchester United being one of the clubs. They've got Ben Yedder, as I said before, joint top scorer last season with Mbappe. They have great players across the board, and it'd be interesting to see how they do. So good prediction there from Kieran L. We've got Rowan's prediction now on the screen for you. So once again, very similar choices of teams across the board. PSG finishing top, as you would expect. Marseille finishing second. Come back to that in a moment. Lyon finishing third, and Lille finishing fourth. Now, Marseille, Rowan, let's take a trip back to last season, where PSG were, you could say, not necessarily walking away with the league, but they were quite far ahead of Marseille. Marseille were in second, doing fairly well themselves. Finished second in the end, of course, because Ligue 1 finished up because of coronavirus. Do you see Marseille pushing PSG once again? Maybe a little bit closer this time, or do you think PSG are going to run away with it? Because I expect a nice bold prediction from Rowan on this one.
Can I make a change?
Of course you can.
Well, not a proper change. So I've gone PSG at top, and I'm going to go Marseille second. I think Marseille will push them. They pushed them last year until the gap got a bit too far away from Marseille, but they see things. I'm going to say it's going to finish exactly as it did last year. I think Stade Reims are going to finish third. I didn't realise they finished third. I thought there was like 7th to 6th. They finished third with, I'll be honest, not an amazing squad. I'm going to go Lille fourth. I'm going to take Lyon out just because they've lost quite a few players. They've lost Terrier, Goure, Tete, Marcal. Marcal is obviously a bit old, but they've lost quite a few players. They obviously brought in Toko Kambe. Toussaint's gone back to Hertha Berlin. They've lost, but again, Lyon has still got... I think, for me, Ligue 1's one of the toughest ones. Just because you never know who is going to actually have a good season. Like Stade Reims finished 6th last year. Who would have expected that? I don't think none of us really. Yeah, it's going to be a very interesting one. I think PSG have had such a bad start, which means that these other teams that are normally not in contention will have to made the most of PSG's fuck up, really.
Pretty much, and we have to hope that that continues on. As we said, they picked up a result last night, actually, 93rd minute winning from Julian Draxler to get their first 3 points of the season on board for PSG. And of course, there still plays out with suspensions because of that ridiculous game between PSG and Marseille with about 100 gazillion red cards. But interesting prediction there from Rowan, slight change of the top 4 candidates. And do you know what, Rowan? I've gone very similar to you as well in terms of putting Stade Rennes in there. You can see on the screen right now, actually. PSG I've put first. Monaco I've put second. I completely agree with you, Kieran. Now, I do think that this is a great opportunity this season for Monaco to take advantage of some of these sides being in Europe and really push up the league. You know, they've got some great players in their side, some really good youngsters. And I don't think they'll get that golden generation of players back for a long time, but they are building something which might put them back towards the upper end of the table in Ligue 1. I've also gone for Stade Rennes in third as well, Rowan. I think they're a fantastic side. Really, really good team across the board, and I think they might surprise a couple of teams in the Champions League next season. Looking forward to seeing how they do, of course. So they've got Camavinga, the young midfielder, who is exceptional on his day, and I really think this will probably be his last season in Ligue 1, and he will move to a team like Real Madrid. I just think he's exceptional quality. If they can hold on to Mendy, which I think is very doubtful, the goalkeeper, he was excellent last season for them. You know, did really, really well. I think he only conceded 29 goals, which is a fantastic record. And then they've got other solid players across the board built around them. You've got Niang, of course, who struggled back in the day at the likes of Watford and Milan. Now seems to be doing a fantastic job in Liga. And I'd like to see them do quite well. And I think if they do get knocked out of the Champions League, which depending on what group they get could happen, then they have got a chance to focus once again on the league, depending if they, of course, they finish third or fourth in the Champions League group. But I've also put Marseille fourth. I think it's an interesting one with Marseille because they've had financial fair play issues. I think when you look at some of the other sides, Marseille don't look as strong as some of the other teams. They've got some decent players, Payet, Thauvin, Benedetto, but they've also lost a couple of players now for a couple of weeks because of the red cards, which could, cost them. Amavi's now out for 6 matches, which is crazy. Benedetto's out for, I think, a match or 2, so they're losing some players already, and I don't think they can play to the same standard as they did last season, but I do think they'll still be up there next season. But a couple of other sides that we've missed out. Stade de Reims, another one of the shocks last season, did very well. They got into Europe, got a very good side on paper, did very defensively well. Saint Etienne, they struggled last season towards the bottom end of the table under Claude Puel. Could they have a resurgence? They've got the likes of Dennis Bouanga at the club, who was their top scorer last season. And I'm not just saying that because I like Dennis Bouanga, but you never know what could happen. But there's a couple of other sides in Ligue 1 that we could see maybe make the top 4. But you've got to tell us in the chat, of course, who do you think is going to make the Ligue 1 top 4? It'd be nice to see your predictions. So we're now going to move on to the next league. We've gone through 2 of them already. We've gone through Liga and the Bundesliga. We're now going to go for La Liga. Of course, this is a very interesting one. Barcelona losing 8-2 to Bayern Munich in the Champions League. We had a great night on that one, Kieran D, with a watch-along. But they have got a lot of work to do in terms of transfers. And it's not just Barcelona as well, because there's a lot of other clubs that have made big business in the transfer window so far. And it makes this one very interesting because could it be a very different La Liga season to what we usually see? We'll have to find out. But you can see right now the predictions on your screen for the top 4 of La Liga. And there is an interesting set of teams there in terms of winning the league. It's not as simple this time as it was for the last 2 because we've got a real plethora of clubs. We're going to start off with Kieran D. Now, you've put Barcelona first, Real Madrid second, Atletico Madrid third, and Sevilla 4th. Now, as we said, Barcelona had a massive capitulation in the Champions League, sacked Quique Setien, then, of course, brought in Ronald Koeman. You think that maybe this resurgence might put them back to the top of the Liga? Why?
I think because it's Messi's last season, and as I said, contrasting with my other point earlier, if they sign Memphis Depay, because it looks like Suarez is probably on the way out of Barcelona, I think it's a nice change for him up front because I think Memphis Depay is such a good player. He's so underrated. It's criminal. Probably didn't have the best showing in the Champions League, and I mean, Rowan watched him a few times. Very, very minimal effect. But I think in that Barcelona team, he would shine. And Yeah, it's Barcelona at the end of the day. They're not a bad side, are they?
Not at all. They've got some very, very good players still in that team, and of course, if they can bring a few more big players in, which I think if there's any club right now in Europe, they're probably the club most desperate to sign as many big players as they possibly can towards the end of the transfer window. And of course, you said Depay is one of those players they're looking at, which I'm really looking forward to seeing as well. I think he's a great player on his day, and I completely agree with you. But looking at the rest of your top four, Atletico Madrid finishing third, Sevilla finishing fourth. Atletico Madrid, they've not really signed anyone, to be honest. Morata, of course, signed permanently. I think that might have been last season, to be fair. But apart from that, they haven't really signed any other players. Do you think that they'll finish third? Or do you think there's a danger that they could even finish lower than third this season and maybe finish fourth, fifth, sixth?
I think if they start the season like they did last season, it could be very difficult for them, of course. Too many draws made them finish probably lower than expected. But I think it is Simeone, and we saw how good they played in the Champions League, minus the game against RB Leipzig. I think they'll be better this season, for sure. Third place.
Third place for them. And Sevilla finishing fourth once again. Fantastic side. Sevilla made a couple of signings themselves. So thank you very much. Can we do that? That's your predictions for La Liga. We can now look at Kieran L's predictions on your screen right now. You've gone Atletico Madrid to win the league. First place for them. Real Madrid second. Barcelona third. Sevilla fourth. So the same four clubs, just in a different order.
Yeah.
Simeone to win the league. Why?
Yeah. Bias. Can I just leave it there, or do I have to justify? Right. So I'm out of all the teams in the league, I think I've said on this podcast, I'm not a massive La Liga fan. I don't really care for the league, but it is a very talented league. But Atletico are the team I love the most. And the thing is, Josh, last year they didn't lose that many games. They lost the amount of games that a champion would be proud of only losing that many games. But they just need to turn a few draws into wins. And I'll be honest with Atletico Madrid, they don't really need to change much. It's just the odd goal, and they are much higher than they are last season, and people are talking about how good they were, Don't forget, they knocked out Liverpool, so they are talented, but they just need to prove the talent consistently. They need to score goals consistently, so it's a risk, but we might as well take a punt, and I love Simeone, I love his management, I love his passion, so I hope he gets the best out of him. And João Felix, he was injured for a lot of last year, so hopefully that teenager can finally burst onto the scene.
Hopefully so. As you perfectly said there, with his injury, didn't get a great deal of time to play for Atletico Madrid, and maybe we might see a little bit more of the Portuguese forward next season. You've obviously put Barcelona finishing third. With Kieran D's point earlier about Depay, do you think he could maybe make a big impact at the club, or do you think maybe there's still a lot of work for them to do in the transfer window?
It'll make a difference, but I don't think the world changes in Barcelona with Memphis Depay. I know he's a brilliant player, but the likes of Leon, he is by far the star man. In Barcelona, he's just going to be another player, as most people are when they go to Barcelona. But we talked about, they're losing, they're trying to get rid of a lot of players. They're trying to literally, it's a DFS summer sale, everything's going for a cut price. So I just worry that signing a new player is good, but a mentality and a feeling around the club won't change due to the signing of Depay. So I think they won't be as good as they have been in the recent years. But I would love for them to shock us all, win the league, and maybe even win the Champions League and just shut everyone up.
You never know. It could happen indeed. And as you said a second ago, he's really like a DFSL right now. They've sold off Rakitic already. Vidal is on his way out. Suarez looks set to be leaving the club too. And there's other players across the board that they're looking at selling too. So we could see a very different Barcelona side in a couple of weeks' time. When the transfer window does shut and they get their first game underway, I think in about a week and a half's time. So that is Kieran L's prediction. Thank you very much. Rowan, once again, the same four teams in a very different order this time. Real Madrid in first place, looking like, if Rowan's prediction is correct, of course, to win the second consecutive La Liga title. Atletico Madrid in second place. Sevilla in third. Barcelona in fourth. You seem to be quite opposite to Kieran D's prediction, thinking that maybe they'll go a little bit more backwards in La Liga.
Yeah, I really want to put them lower down, but I think that they've got the class in players. For me, at a club, if you've got a great owner and a great ran club, your team will play better. I think the morale of that team will be like zero. you've seen how they operate with the Messi situation, with Abidal as well. I think a lot of the players will see that and think, well, why would I want to be at a club that's managing it like that? They've seen they got rid of Rakitic. Is it Sevilla? It went.
It did indeed.
And I think Sevilla will use the momentum of the Europa League win to get to that third. I think Atletico, this will be their season where they are so close to getting that first. Like, I think it's going to go down to the final day. I think it's going to be so close. I think Real Madrid will beat him just a little bit. Obviously, they are losing Bale and Reguilon, but Bale actually did do amazing last season. Not particularly, but he didn't really play. And Reguilon obviously was on loan at Sevilla. I think for Barca's mentality, unfortunately, I think this is not going to be a season we expect from them.
So Rowan's expecting a Madrid rivalry all the way until the end of the season. You never know. I mean, technically speaking, the title did go down to the last day of the season in the Liga in the previous season. But of course, actually, no, it didn't, because Real Madrid won it a couple of points before. It was the top four that went down to the last game of the season. But it was very tight towards that Europa League and the last Champions League spot section. But thank you very much, Rowan. So we've got kind of the same four teams popping up here. I've changed it up very, very slightly. So my prediction for La Liga, I've gone Real Madrid to finish first, Barcelona to finish second, Sevilla to finish third, Villarreal to finish fourth. Now, the reason why I put Villarreal to finish fourth is because I think Unai Emery, for one, is a very underappreciated manager. Had a fantastic time in Spain. We know what he did with Sevilla in the past, and I think, he'll go back into La Liga and get a little bit more appreciation than he did when he was at PSG and Arsenal. But some of the signings that Villarreal have made are very, very good indeed. Now, we said before about a mass sale going on at Barcelona. There's been an even bigger mass sale going on at Valencia right now. They're just flogging the whole team off because of financial fair play issues. And two players have already gone to Villarreal. One of those is Coquelin, former Arsenal midfielder, went for 10 million euros. Not a bad deal overall. He's more of a squad depth player than anything. He'll probably go straight into their side. The other player they signed from Valencia was Parejo, who was their captain. And you could probably say one of Valencia's most consistent and best players in the last couple of years. Consistent at his free kicks, consistent at penalties, and just a very good, naturally gifted player overall. And I think they are rivals to Valencia. These are two very big rivals. And the fact that Valencia sold them off to Villarreal just shows how desperate they were to get cash in the first place. But I think Parejo will be a very big factor for the club. They've brought in a couple of other players as well. They brought in Geronimo Rulli, former Real Sociedad goalkeeper, former Manchester City goalkeeper as well, although he never played for them. I think he's a great signing. Already got the Liga experience at a very decent club in Sociedad. And they've also brought in Kubo, the Japanese winger from Real Madrid, on a loan deal. And I think not only they're bringing a lot of Japanese followers over into La Liga, I just think if he gets an opportunity to really kick on, we might see Villarreal push up the table a little bit more than they did last season, which is why I've stuck them in, because I think maybe we might see the best of Unai Emery in comparison to what we did at Arsenal, because I'm pretty sure he wants to put those days very quickly behind him. But as for the rest of my predictions, Sevilla in third. I agree with you guys. I think the momentum of the Europa League winning campaign will continue on. And Lopetegui, he's a great manager, isn't he? I mean, look at how delighted he was when they won the Europa League. It was beautiful to see a manager who's had a tough kind of year or two win a big trophy. And then once again, I think it's Real Madrid and Barcelona for the top two, isn't it? To be honest, I think at the end of the season, you expect the domination to continue, because Barcelona, they're losing players, but they've still got a big, large base of their squad from last season. But there's our predictions overall for La Liga. Do you guys think there's any outside shouts for the top four? Teams like Granada, Bilbao?
Oh. I think the problem with La Liga is you rarely do see. There were a 10-point gap between Sevilla and whoever finished fifth. I can't remember off the top of my head. It is tough because you just got them teams who run the league. I think it's going to be a simple top four, as we expect.
That's okay.
Yeah. To be honest, I think I agree. I think it's the league that most of the time it is the easiest to predict, because if you just go with the safe top four, if you don't get all four, you'll get 3 out of the 4, because that league has been dominated by Barca, Real and Atletico for so long. unless Josh drops Atletico Madrid out of the top four, which I think is what he did, which
I did
it's an
indeed.
asshole move. It's fine. Yeah, it's all right. But no, I just don't think there's anyone in there really to compete. But, Valencia had an unbeaten start to the season. If they even get close, I'd be amazed.
It'd be very, very surprising indeed if they do with the amount of players that they've lost. But I did, yes, I put Atletico Madrid out of the top four. I'm backing Unai Emery, not because he's a better manager than Simeone, but that's beside the point. But yeah, there's other teams as well. Bilbao, they struggled last season. They've lost a couple of their big players. Adariz retired, of course, their veteran forward. Granada had a fantastic debut season in the Liga, finishing the European spots, but might not be enough for them to get into the Champions League. And of course, the teams like Real Betis as well. Got a couple of good set players on their side. They struggled last season towards mid-table. So there's a couple of other teams you could shout for, Sociedad as well. But put in the comments below, as we said before, who you think will finish in the top four in the Liga. But we're expecting, as you guys have said, that'll be very, very similar across the board for the top four spots. So there we go. They are our La Liga predictions. We're now going to move on to the next league. We've got two more of the big leagues left, and I think this one is going to be a very interesting one indeed. Premier League we're leaving till last because, of course, we've got the relegation on there as well. But this one is, I think, one of our most favourite leagues across the board, not including the Premier League. It's Serie A. Now, Serie A was fantastic last season. There were three teams fighting out for the title nearly till the end. There was Lazio, of course, who were up there. Atalanta snuck up towards the end. And then, of course, Inter Milan and Juventus were the two sides. Real Madrid aren't in Serie A. But looking at the end of the season at the table, Juventus finished top. Inter Milan, they only finished 1 point behind Juventus, which shows how close the league really was. But this season, it's going to be very different. Juventus got a brand new manager, Andrea Pirlo, which, just very quickly before I ask you about the top four, what do you think about that? Because that was an interesting manager signing in Pirlo.
Bold, but might work. And that's
I mean, but Bayern took a big step in getting rid of Niko Kovac and getting a man that, I know he had assistant experience in terms of Hansi Flick, but he'd never really managed a team properly, so maybe the gamble will work. But I think it's just, sadly, the way you are at these top clubs. You win the league, yes, it's only by a point, but you've got silverware, and then they kick you out the back door as if you've done a horrendous job, which I know that's how it is, but I mean, if you did it by that aspect, Guardiola should have been sacked years ago. But it's just a weird way that the big clubs work, isn't it? In foreign lands, I guess.
It is. It's a crazy one. And it'll be interesting to see what Pirlo does because, as you perfectly said there, he hasn't actually had any managerial experience. He was signed on as the Juventus under-23 manager and then a week later was upgraded to the first team job. What a fantastic proposition that is. It's like working at McDonald's and then turning up at Apple the next week. It's a crazy world. But this is our Serie A top four predictions right now. As you can see on the screen, Rowan's debating between McDonald's and Apple, which one's better. You can see Juventus, everybody's put them right now as first in the league. Inter Milan, everybody's put them as second in the league. But I'm going to go with, I'm going to change it up this time. I'm going to go from the bottom. Rowan, you've put AC Milan third and Napoli fourth. Now, AC Milan, they had a very, very strong end to the second half of the season under Stefano Pioli. Actually changed their minds from signing Ralph Rangnick a couple of weeks ago to become their next manager. You think we might finally see AC Milan back in the Champions League? Why?
They had such a good a rebirth. It was really nice to see, and I think new season, they can use the momentum of last season, push that fourth. My third is, I think, my toughest one. Same with the fourth, because you look who I'm missing out. Roma, Atalanta, and Lazio. Atalanta and Lazio were so close last year, and I'm just worried that they won't be able to match what they did. Whereas Napoli, they weren't contesting 8th. They were clear of 8th, but they weren't contesting AC Milan at 6th. They were 4 points behind. And I think it's one thing I love about the Serie A. There are 7 teams in there who could win the league. Genuinely, Juventus, Pirlo might be the worst manager we might ever see in football. The first team manager, I doubt it, but he might be. And he might really throw Juventus down the ladder they got to the final. Yes, they didn't really play amazingly well, Sevilla were the better side, but they got to a final at the end of the day. I think the top 2 is very contestable. you can go either way, and I wouldn't say, I completely disagree with you, wrong. But yeah, Napoli and AC Milan, maybe.
So we could see two teams making a slight resurgence. Of course, it's more AC Milan making a resurgence than Napoli, but Napoli last season they were struggling at the beginning of the season before Gennaro Gattuso came in. And coming on to that point, we're now going to go on to Kieran L's predictions. You've gone for the same, but flipped it round. You've put Napoli third, AC Milan fourth. Now, we'll talk a bit more about Napoli this time. They struggled at the beginning of the season, of course, under Carlo Ancelotti. Sacked him. He moved on to Everton and then brought in Gennaro Gattuso, who did a very good job at AC Milan and has been doing an even better job, you could say, at Napoli right now. Fantastic finish for them in Serie A. They did a fairly decent job in the Champions League, of course. Really tried their best against Barcelona, but of course, Barcelona got through in the end. You think Napoli are going to finish third? Why?
Yeah. For me, it was a really sort of, what's the way to put it? An anomaly this year for Napoli, because they've been up in around the top four for a while, and then suddenly they dropped off. And you've got to admit, a terrible start, and especially under an experienced manager like Ancelotti. I think there's a lot of problems at that club from the higher ups, because you see, Allen was never going to get a game, so he had to leave. So that is a worry when you're taking Napoli, because you've got to take the owners with them, which they're not the greatest. But I think Gattuso has suddenly instilled some sort of spirit in that team that really lacked. They won the Coppa Italia after looking like arguably one of the weaker teams in there in terms of form, in terms of experience. And there must be a project there, because Dries Mertens has reversed his decision about wanting to leave and go to a different team. I'm pretty sure he's signing a new deal, or he has signed a new deal, one or the other. So I think there's a project at Napoli. And in terms of Milan, I'm sorry, I just want to credit Gattuso because he did a brilliant job after it didn't seem like anyone was going to. And on Milan, I just admire what they're doing. I admire that they're kind of emphasising youth. They went and got Tonali. They've got Brahim Diaz on loan, Kalulu from Lyon, Sailmakers, who's 21 years old. So I like what they're doing there. I think two teams that are having a changing of the guard, and this is the year they finally... I don't think they combat the top two, but they'll seriously have a battle for the top four.
I think the neutral would like to see AC Milan back in the Champions League. It's been too long now, and we've seen them in the Europa League a couple of times. In fact, they should have been in the Europa League last season had they not broke FFP rules, so they got knocked out of it. And of course, they're now back actually in it this season. They've got a preliminary round stage to play off against Shamrock Rovers, which is going to be a very interesting game to watch for the neutral once again. But they are the predictions that Rowan and Kieran L has made. We'll have a look at Kieran D's now. You can see on the screen. Once again, we've got Juventus in first, Inter Milan second, Napoli in third, so Kieran D's agreeing with Kieran L on that one. But this time you've put AS Roma fourth. Now, Roma, they had a very good end to the season themselves. They looked like they were about to bring in Arkadiusz Milik. Why do you think they're going to finish in the Champions League stages?
I think losing Dzeko, it just looks like he's probably going to go to Juventus, is a massive loss for him. But I think Arkadiusz Milik is a really good sign. He's a replacement. He's a different type of striker to Dzeko. He's a little bit quicker. He's a good target man, like Kieran L loves. I think it's time for Roma to return to where they should be. But I do think they'll be pushed all the way by AC Milan. Like you said, they've made some fantastic signings. And they've got so many leaders in that squad now and so many up-and-coming talents like Sandro Tonali. And it's going to be interesting to see, because I think we thought Serie A last year was really good. It could be even better this year.
It could be indeed. There's a lot of really, really good teams fighting it out in the Serie A this season. Of course, AS Roma, they've had a couple of seasons now where they've not been in the Champions League, and maybe we could see a resurgence, as Kieran D perfectly put there. We could be losing Dzeko to Juventus. We could also be potentially losing Cengiz Under to Leicester. That's another deal that's been announced in the last couple of days. But they are Kieran D's predictions, very similar once again across the line. Juventus and Inter Milan finishing second there, and Napoli, of course, finishing third. Be interested to see if they can or not. You can see now my prediction. I've gone for the exact same top four as last season, because I think there are slight points with the other sides that I think will cost them a potential place. Now, Napoli, I think losing Koulibaly will be a massive loss. It might not happen, and I think if he stays, then I think there's a good shout to put them in there. If he goes, I think it's a massive loss because there's no one near to his same quality in that side. No one close. AC Milan, as much as I would love to see him back in the Champions League, I still think their squad's nowhere near ready for it yet. I think when you look at the squad on paper, compare it to some of the other sides, I just think some of the signings that they made now, Tonali, Brahim Diaz, fantastic deals. And I hope that they do make it there, but I don't think they're going to make it in. I think they'll finish maybe 5th or 6th. And then Roma, I think once again, I don't think their side's strong enough yet. I think they need to make a couple more big signings to get in there. I think Dzeko will be a massive loss. Undair, to be fair, I think will be not a massive loss, but still a relatively decent loss for them. Big player for them towards the end of the season. Was doing very well, but now it looks like he's off to Leicester. Now, I put Atalanta 3rd, Lazio 4th. I think I'm very surprised no one else put Atalanta in there because I think they will still be up there next season. They haven't lost many big names. Castagna, of course, has gone to Leicester City, but they seem to be quite all right at the back. Although I do think they still need to make a couple more defensive signings, to be honest, to reassure the back line because, to be honest, on paper, back line-wise, it's probably one of the weakest in the top 6 or 7. I think you can quite easily look at teams like Milan, AC Milan, and say they've got a better defence. But attack-wise, it's just ridiculously strong. You know, Josip Ilicic, he's now back. Wasn't playing the Champions League, of course. Duvan Zapata, he was out injured for a large bit of the first part of the season, so hopefully he can stay fit. And you could, bag yourself an extra 5-10 goals. Luis Muriel, what a crazy season he had. Finished with 16, 17 goals in Serie A. I don't think there's many people out there who would have predicted that one. Coming off the bench, scoring so many goals. And they've got 3 very, very good strikers. And then I think the main pivotal point to why they get up there is because of Papu Gomez. Was linked with a move to Al Nassr. Heavily linked. And they wanted to bring him in for a large amount of cash. But he's rejected them and said he's going to be staying at Atalanta. And I think he's such a good player on his day. He's getting on with age now, but he's still so quick. He's dynamic. He's got flair. And I think if they can keep their attack, it might be enough to get them through without having a good defence, because we saw how many goals they scored last season. They were very close to scoring 100 goals in Serie A themselves, which is a mental record to set. But I think if they can keep the attack, they'll get there. As for Lazio, very similar. They've not really lost many of their players. They were looking to get David Silva in. Couldn't, unfortunately. He went to Real Sociedad last minute, but they've kept their big main players. And I think, once again, for them, they've got a much better defence than Atalanta. They've got Acerbi at the back, who is solid on his day. Fantastic Italian defender. Midfield-wise, they've kept Milinkovic-Savic. They've still got Luis Alberto. Up top, they've got Immobile. Looks like they've got rid of Caicedo now as well, which is something that me and Kieran L will be certainly delighted about. But I think, once again, for them, it's a case of the fact that they've kept their main players. They've had a couple of little signings that they've brought in. I think they might still be up there next season. But as you perfectly put it, guys, when you look at the teams on paper, there are so many teams that could, transition in and out of the top 7 or 8. It's looking like a great season, and
it's going to get exciting.
Exactly. Do you think Juventus will walk away with it, or do you think we'll see once again another close battle?
Close battle for sure. I think it's going to be even close. I think, obviously, it was extremely close. I think it might. I'm not going to say same points, goal difference, but I think it's going to be close. You don't have that experienced manager that you did.
It's a lot closer than the likes of the Bundesliga, where I believe the gap between Bayern and the rest of the league after what we saw last year is humongous. Whereas I wasn't convinced by Juventus. I know I had them to win the Champions League, but when I was watching them, when we watched them against Lyon, yes, it were bad decisions that knocked them out, but they weren't convincing. It was Ronaldo carrying this kind of lifeless body along to the next round. But I truly believe in this league, we speak about it, and it's so interesting to have 8 teams that you could pick any one of them, and I could back. Most of them you could vouch for top 4, and a few of them, maybe 5, you could vouch for winning the league. So, and that's what you want as a neutral football fan, and that's why European football needs a little bit more respect in England, I think.
It does indeed. It's going to be a very exciting season in Serie A. Once again, put your top 4 in the comments below on who you think will make the top 4 of Serie A. I think this one's going to be a lot more harder than the rest of them. And hopefully, we might see a very different, varied amount of teams in that top 4. So tell us in the comments below. But now we're going to move on to our final one of the main leagues. It's the Premier League. So here we are at the last of the 5 major leagues, and we've got 2 sections for this one. Of course, it is the Premier League, and well, as Martin Tyler said, it is the pride of the Premier League because Liverpool won it last season, but will they be the pride of the Premier League again? Because this top 4 is very interesting. We made our predictions a couple of days before we've actually recorded it, and there's some interesting choices in this one. So as you can see right now, the pride of the Premier League, according to us, is either going to be one of the Manchester sides this season. Me, Kieran L and Rowan have gone for Manchester City. I'm going to start off with Kieran D because, of course, Kieran D, fellow Manchester United fan, has put Manchester United top. He's backing his boys to win the league.
Sorry.
Kieran D, why?
Rowan, you spot all and pipe down. Pretty much. But why the bloody hell not? It's the team I support. I honestly don't think we're going to win the league, but you know what? Why not?
You've got to back your boys, haven't you, at the end of the day?
Yeah.
And you've done that exactly. Spot on there. Van der Beek, I'll ask you about him because, of course, fantastic midfielder on his day. Really, really good for Ajax. Do you think he can add a bit of add a quality to that midfield? Because if you look at it right now, it's already, in my opinion, is one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. It's exceptional. Pogba and Bruno in there. And then if you can add Donny van der Beek in there, do you think you can be up there fighting for the title, or do you think it'll be very similar to last season and you towards 3rd and 4th, but a little bit further away from the top 2?
I'm expecting to be 3rd and 4th, but I hope the gap is bridged ever so slightly. I think Van der Beek adds a little bit of something else that we didn't have with the likes of the midfielders that would replace Pogba and Bruno off the bench, the likes of Fred and McTominay. He's got a little bit more flair about him. His runs forward he makes for Ajax. He's scored so many goals in similar positions, finds himself free in the box, and of course we've seen him do it so many times in the Champions League in Ajax's glory run to the semi-finals. I think it is a good signing. It's 40 million well spent, of course. But for me, I think I've gone for us winning the league just because I want us to. I'm a Man United fan, but I don't think we'll win the league. Realistically, I'm agreeing with you guys. I think City will win it.
So, of course, you've got to back your boys at the end of the day. So, of course, realistically speaking, you'd put Manchester City first. Where would you put Man United, realistically? Third. So, Man United go third, of course. But for your prediction on it, you put United second, United first, City second, Liverpool third, Chelsea fourth. You think Chelsea are going to finish a little bit lower than last season? Why?
Well, no, because they'll finish the exact same space.
Oh. Well.
No, I think it's going to be either Manchester United or Chelsea finishing third or fourth in whatever order. I think the signings they've made have definitely made it a big improvement to their squad. They could even challenge for the league. We watched them the other night. Not necessarily didn't have a good game, of course, but they got the 3 points, which is a sign of a good team, in my honest opinion. They didn't play the best, but they got the 3 points in the end, and it just shows the quality that they have on show. Timo Werner was looking sharp. Kai Havertz didn't have the best of debuts, but we know what he's capable of. Thiago Silva's a really good leader, and they needed better centre-back options back there. I think for Chelsea and Man United, they've got to bridge the gap this year. And there's other teams that are rebuilding as well, like Arsenal and Tottenham, for instance. Everton could be up there this season. Wolves could be up there. It's going to be a very good season, I think, for the Premier League this year.
Hopefully so indeed. And yeah, of course, you are spot on. Chelsea did finish fourth. It was a very close race for that fourth spot. Went down to the last day, of course. But you never know with Chelsea. They spend a lot of money. They're going to be expected to finish quite high up in the table. So that is Kieran D's prediction. You can now see Kieran L's prediction on your screen. He's gone Manchester City finishing first this time. Chelsea finishing second. Liverpool finishing third. And the only person to put down Arsenal finishing fourth. Now, we actually talked about this before, didn't we, about Arsenal, because we made our predictions a couple of days before and we were both deliberating whether to put them in. Mikel Arteta did a fantastic job since he's come in, won Arsenal the Community Shield and the FA Cup. You're thinking he can maybe get them back into the Champions League in his first full season. Do you think it's possible?
Yeah, it's possible. Of course it is. I think, surprisingly, anything's possible in the Premier League. You know, Leicester were in there for so long and were really unfortunate to miss out. It was a really, really poor top 4 battle last year. It was 2 teams and other teams that weren't really convincing. But the only reason I put Arsenal is I looked at your guys' predictions and no one gave him any credit, right? But since Arteta's come in, and they always put him on the same level. You know, you talk about the former players that have become managers like Arteta and Solskjaer is the only one to win a trophy. and he's been there half the time. So I do believe that he's brought a new air of confidence to the team. I think when you've got Aubameyang, scoring goals is never the problem. I do think they've got a plethora of attacking talent. Defensively, still needs a little bit of work. I think Gabriel had a debut. I think he got man of the match, if I'm not mistaken, his debut. So hopefully he can continue to grow. We yet to see the process of William Saliba. I think he might go out on loan for another year. But I think Arsenal have got they're on a roll at the moment. I think after the end of last year, winning the trophies that they did, and coming into this season, they're on a roll. So I'd like to see them in the trenches when things get tough, because we've not seen that under Arteta yet. So we'll see how that goes. But that's the reason I've kind of gone with it. And they have Granit Xhaka. So
do you think Granit Xhaka's going to contribute maybe a few goals, few assists? You never know.
Oh,
could happen.
Well, he's going to be the captain lifting the trophy at the end of the season, to be honest. So
I mean,
what's that?
He is a closet Arsenal fan.
Yeah.
I mean, technically though, you've got to support the boys, haven't you? If you're a closet Arsenal fan, you've got to support them. So you put Arsenal in 4th. And then for the rest of it, Liverpool 3rd. I'm going to actually ask both of the Kierans here, because you both put Liverpool 3rd. You think they're going to both of you think Liverpool's going to slightly slip off this year? I'm guessing both of you put them in 3rd as if the title race is going to be very tight. Not necessarily that they're going to be 3rd and miles off. Why 3rd?
For me, it was more they hadn't signed Thiago at this point. We do need to clarify they hadn't. There was nothing set in stone, and a lot of these opinions will probably change because there is still a lot of the window to go, and that's the risk doing it now. But I just believe they haven't. I couldn't believe last year with the depth they had that they did as well as they did, because I always worry with Liverpool that you look at Man City. Yes, their net spend is unbelievable. They throw money at the wall and abuse power and football and money. So Liverpool have to do it a little bit differently, and you take off the likes of the fullbacks last year. You were filling in with Natty Clyne, who eventually left, Nico Williams, Milner at left back. For me, they don't have enough depth in their team. And yes, Thiago will be a great addition in the midfield, he really will, but I still believe that they need to invest a little bit more. But I credit Liverpool at the way they have won the league and the way they've built their team over time. So, but I just think they're just going to slip off this year.
Kieran D, of course, you've put Liverpool in 3rd place as well. Have you kind of thinking down the similar lines as Kieran L?
I just think that it's Man City again this year. The signings they've made, and like you said, the abuse of power and the abuse of the money that's available for them. And they're probably going to sign probably one of the best defenders in the world. We know how many defensive mistakes they had last year. If they iron them out, I think they will win the league. I think for Liverpool, last season was absolutely incredible. But I don't think it's a different task. Is defending the league to win it for the first time, for example. It's going to be a massive task for him. I think, of course, my real prediction will be for them to finish 2nd and Man United to finish 3rd. But I think it will be close up there between City and Liverpool again.
Hopefully we can get a nice title race. That'd be lovely. I mean, of course, last season it was pretty much done and dusted by Christmas. So hopefully it can be a little bit closer this time. We'll go to Rowan's predictions now. As you can see on the screen, Rowan has gone for Manchester City in 1st, Liverpool in 2nd, Chelsea in 3rd. And I think this is a very interesting punt from Rowan. Everton 4th. Now, of course, Carlo Ancelotti coming to the club. At the beginning of the season wasn't the most convincing end, but of course the players that they've got are a little bit different now. They brought in 3 very, very good midfielders. One of them being James Rodriguez, who is absolutely exceptional on his day. They've brought in Decore from Watford, who has got plenty of Premier League experience. And they've brought in Allen as well from Napoli, who is a bit of an outcast in Italy. You think that they can finish in the Champions League spots, Rowan? Why?
I don't know, because I turned my PC off, so I don't know who you're talking about.
Everton.
Can you just read the other predictions? So basically, I was ironing out a crease on my thing, and I accidentally clicked the power button, but it kept me in Discord. So what? Can you just read my top 4, please?
Your top 4 was Manchester City 1st, Liverpool 2nd, Chelsea 3rd, and Everton 4th.
Yeah. So I wanted a bold prediction. I thought, I think Liverpool City is going to be an extremely close one again. You've seen how both sides are in the past couple of years. I've not been close. I thought I've gone Chelsea 3rd. I think their signings have been class. For me, the one where Chelsea's will then players bed in quick enough for them to really make impacts and challenge City and Liverpool, but I think they've got a third. The fourth is the very different one because if you talk about the big teams, United coming off some stellar form from last season, haven't made many signings. Don Rodriguez is a great signing. I don't think it's been where you should have really made a signing, but in my personal opinion. Arsenal, again, I mean, they proved on the opening season. They've got a good start. Willian, surprisingly, a great signing, getting them 3 assists. You've got Gabriel, you've got Saliba, probably will start. You've obviously got youth in Martinelli and Saka and Nketiah, Maitland-Niles. You've got a really good build. I think that's probably a couple of years before we see Arsenal really challenging for the title, but possibly a fourth. Leicester and Wolves, again, they're 2 teams who could just have a stellar season without you realising, and then you're coming to like 3 months till the end, and they're sitting 4 points away from fourth somehow. But I've gone Everton. You look at the signings they made. It's the 3 main ones. It's James, Allen, and Doucouré. And they all obviously didn't win by much last night. They won by 1 last night when they played, but they won. And it just looks like an exciting team. And I wanted to do another bold prediction, and I think they could do something. And I hope they do. I don't know where your issues are with Everton. That's your problem. It's probably Michael Keane. It's probably your centre back.
Oh,
It's probably your
Harsh
defence.
on Keane.
It's probably your defence where you've got your little bits of issues. But that's slight iron out. I think Pickford is a great goalkeeper. I think he is. I think you see how he does make saves that help Everton. Yes, I think he is a bit more showy off there, and he looks nervous, if that makes sense in terms of thingy. It's when he comes out to get a ball that he's nowhere near. But this season so far, it's only 1 game. It hasn't been to his detriment yet. But he made some lovely saves at the game at the weekend, and I really just wanted Everton. I wanted to do a random one, but yeah, you can put anyone there. Not anyone, but you could put the people who were competing last year. You could put for that fourth: United, Arsenal, Wolves, Leicester, Tottenham.
It's a very interesting shout indeed. I mean, there's a couple of interesting calls in there. I can see the faces going when Rowan said about Pickford, but you never know. It was a really, really good game, though, wasn't it, for Everton in their first match against Tottenham? Dominated them for large spells of the game, and you never know. Now Ancelotti's got a couple of his main stars in. We could see a very different Everton side indeed. I'm going to very quickly go through my top 4 prediction. I put pretty much a very similar order to last season. Manchester City finishing first, Liverpool finishing second, Chelsea finishing third, and United finishing fourth. I think in terms of that top 4 race, it'll be fairly tight between City, Liverpool, and maybe not Chelsea United, to be honest. I don't know, to be honest, because with the Liverpool one, it comes back to that point what you guys said earlier about depth. I think even Liverpool fans are now starting to realise how poor the depth is. Specifically, you could say up top as well, because they're looking to sell on Ryan Brewster, which I think is an absolutely horrendous deal for Liverpool, because when you look at Brewster getting taken away from the squad, you've only really got Divock Origi as one of the strikers who can come on, and then you're looking at going on to the under-18s and even further down, and it's for a team like Liverpool, it could backfire massively if they don't sign any other players, because I don't think Thiago personally will be enough to lift them to a title once again. And I agree with you guys. I think Manchester City will just steamroll the league once again. Not necessarily points-wise, but they've spent the money. I think they will continue to spend the money with a few weeks that they've got left as they're trying to push to get Koulibaly. But I do think they'll win the league. So we are expecting Manchester dominance at the top of the table. Now we're going to move to the bottom of the table. As we said before, this is the only league where we made our relegation predictions. We're going to go to them now. This is an interesting one. There's some different teams down there, and we're going to start off with the prediction from Kieran D. If it's going to pop up, there we go. So Kieran D, you have predicted, this is in no order, by the way, for the relegation candidates, this one. This is the 3 teams that we think will go down. Kieran D, you've picked out West Brom, Fulham, and Sheffield United. As I said, this is in no order. Sheffield United, fantastic first season in the Premier League, almost nearly got themselves into the Europa League spots. You think they're going to go down? Why is that?
Because we watched them against Wolves, Josh, me and you, and they just looked lifeless. I mean, I don't know what's happened. They just look like the energy that was there last season, the energy to win the ball back, the likes of John Fleck and Ollie Norwood. It just didn't look like the same energy was there. And we saw that towards the end of the season. They had a little bit of a drop-off and obviously dropped out of those Europa League spaces, which I think has done them some good because they probably would have gone down if they would have had to juggle the Europa League and the league, because it's very hard to do that for a team like Wolves, for instance. But I think Sheffield United have had their run, their glory days in the sun, and I think KL probably agrees with me that they could go down this year.
They could indeed, and it's a very interesting call. I'm going to come back to the other two teams a little bit later on because some of us have also picked out the same teams too, so I'll bring us all together for that conversation. Kieran L., you have also picked out West Brom and Fulham, but you've picked out Aston Villa. Now, Aston Villa last season, they struggled to stay up. It was only on the last day of the season when Jack Grealish scored the winning goal to keep them up. That saved them pretty much from going down. You think that this time they're doomed to relegation? Why?
Well, we did these predictions before Jack Grealish had signed a new 5-year contract. I also want to clarify that because there was a lot of question marks whether he'd be at the club. So that was a factoring decision, because it's one of them. If you take Zaha out of Crystal Palace as well, they'll probably be down there. And I agree with Kieran, the fact that Sheffield United, I do believe there's going to be a second-year slump. I didn't quite put them in relegation, but they ain't going to be anywhere near. And Brighton, I can't relegate Ali Reza. So instead, I decided to go with the only option is Aston Villa. They've made some decent signings. I think they're bringing in a new goalkeeper that I can't remember the bloody name.
Martinez.
Yeah, Emi Martinez from Arsenal, who had half a season last year where he was overburnt Leno, and he could have started for Arsenal because I believe he was unbelievable when he came into that Arsenal team for a backup goalkeeper, really. So I think that's going to help them there. But for me, the problem with Aston Villa last year was defensively, and I don't think they've improved that much defensively to warrant them staying in the Premier League. And now they've got Jack Grealish, it puts it a little bit more in doubt, but still, he doesn't make the whole team tick as we saw last year. So defensively, they're still a little bit shoddy, and I'd just put them to go down.
So Aston Villa maybe to go down. We'd have liked you back at Rotherham, Emi Martinez, maybe one day, but that is Aston Villa to potentially go down in Kieran L's prediction. Once again, you've picked out West Brom and Fulham. We'll come back to them in a little moment. Rowan, you have gone very similar to me in this one. You've put down West Brom, West Ham, which I'll come back to in a little minute, and Leeds. Now, Leeds, of course, coming up into the Premier League, got a massive set of fans who will have probably been very slightly impressed from their result against Liverpool, although they didn't win. You've put them to get relegated. Now, this might cause a stir with the Leeds fans, but why?
Will. I don't know. When we do predictions, I genuinely didn't have a clue this year. West Brom was my only one where I was like, there's something about them where I didn't get a feeling. The other group, obviously we did it before all the games we played, apart from Leeds, I think. But there was something about it in the back of my head. I was like, West Brom, yeah. West Ham was one that can go either way. They could either have a horrid thing. Leeds, we watched them play at Liverpool, and they actually played very well. They did. It's all to do with Bielsa in terms of if he keeps on starting Bamford, even though he scored, I'm worried because Bamford didn't look there. There were so many open spots. I don't know how Bamford plays. I just had faith in other sides, personally. I think maybe Fulham is a shout, but my own bias for Tony Khan probably put it away. Leeds are a thing. West Ham. I don't know why I put West Ham. I'll be honest with you, because they're not actually a bad side. My prediction for Premier League was I don't have a clue, so I just named 3 teams. I named 2 teams.
I mean, I think I'm going to agree with you with the Leeds one. I could have gone to go down just because of how shambolic they are at the back. We saw that against Liverpool, and we saw that against Hull last night.
Yes. Come on.
Had to get that one in there, didn't we?
Yeah, I didn't even mention him in mine, but they can't beat us, so they can't stay in the league. That's how. No, But West Ham, Rowan, you've made a valid point because we talked earlier how owners kind of, with Barcelona, the owners, and it trickles down. West Ham, arguably the worst in the Premier League in terms of owners. They're definitely up there. So it might trickle down into the squad.
Well, it perfectly comes on to my prediction because I also picked out West Brom and Fulham, but I also put West Ham because I think, and this is probably going on to a very slight rant, but I think if you're a West Ham fan, you're doomed. You're absolutely doomed. I mean, if you haven't seen, if you didn't watch the game against Newcastle, they were fucking shite. I'm talking terrible. Nobody turned up. Well, there was one or two players that turned up, but there was just defensive position looked awful. Aaron Creswell for the Hendrick goal was, miles away from the ball, just gave him so much space. And I think if you haven't seen West Ham's running for the next weeks, they could seriously be on 0 points after 9 or 10 games. It's genuinely possible that could happen. They lost Grady Diagana to West Brom, which they only put up a couple of days before he left pictures of him in a West Ham shirt saying they're ready to see him, and then shat themselves when an offer came in and flogged him off, which I think if you're a West Ham fan, you've got every right to be annoyed about it because Haller, in a post-match interview, had already said he was looking forward to playing with Grady Diagana, and they took the money and run, which I think is wrong in the first place because he was a big prospect for them. There's also the whole situation with Mark Noble. He put out a tweet as well saying about the Grady Diagana situation, which is the club's captain, which obviously shows that there's unrest, and it comes back to the point of the owners. They're shit. They are the shit of the shit. They're the lowest of the low you could possibly get. They put no money into the club, no money into the stadium or the fans or anything like that. They put barely any money in. It is a very tightly knit club in the fact that whatever money's coming in never comes out for transfers and things like that. And I just think it wouldn't surprise me if Moyes walked at one point or just left. And I think, as I said, the running at the start is the main problem. If they can pick up points because they've got to play City, Arsenal, Chelsea, Liverpool, they've got all of the big boys straight away. If they can pick up some points here and there, it's doubtful, but it could happen. Then there might be a very different story. And as Rowan said, they are one of those sides where you could see them finishing mid-table, top half, but you could also see them getting relegated.
They had another bid for Tarkowski rejected as well, 31 million.
And I think he doesn't want to join as well, doesn't he? I think he's already said he's not interested in joining, which I think he's tough at West Ham.
I think if West Ham were to go down, they would be the best side to go down in to the Championship. Like we see the likes of Watford, their squad this season. Imagine West Ham's squad if they went down. I know they'd have to exodus a lot of players, but I think they've got far too good of a squad to go down. Even if their owners are a shambles. I'm looking on the pitch, they've got the likes of Jared Bowen, Felipe Anderson. They've got Haller, who's had a good game against Charlton the other night. They've got Thomas Souček, who started to play well towards the end of the season. It looked like towards the end of last season they were turning a corner at West Ham, and they've just done an absolute U-turn and gone back the same way. But for me, I just can't see them going down because they've just got such a good squad.
I guess you can say that, but at the same time, how much of the squad was there at the start? It's a tough one, isn't it? I think for every Premier League club, you're looking to improve your squad year on year. No matter if you win the league, there is always one position a club looks at and says, we need to improve there. With West Ham, I look at it and see it's quite the opposite. They look at who's the best and say, fuck him off to another club, we'll take the cash and run.
I think that's the thing with football in general, though. No team is ever too good to go down.
No.
Like, I remember we were watching the Bundesliga last year and we said, how are Mainz even in this situation compared to the other teams? And so you've always got to look over your shoulder. I do agree, though. I think there are some good players there, but I think the amazing thing for me is you get rid of Grady Diangana, but you don't get rid of the likes of Felipe Anderson. I know there might not be the market for him, but he's been stinking up the joint for the last couple of years. So, whereas Grady Diangana had a future, so I think they need a lot of changes from the top downwards, and they've also got a stadium that, even with fans, they stripped the soul out of that club when they moved from Upton Park to a sports arena that's not made for football. If we're being 100% honest, it's made to watch people do javelin, do the heptathlon, whatever you want to do. It's not made for football.
It's not indeed, and it's a shame, but I think it's an interesting call with West Ham, and I think there'll be West Ham fans which will agree with it, that they've got a tough time coming, and there'll be others that will say, do you know what, maybe it's the start of turning a corner, but we'll have to find out over time. And finally, very quickly, we'll talk about the other two teams that I kept till the end. We all put down West Brom and Fulham. West Brom, they made a couple of signings here and there. Callum Robinson from Chelsea. Most recently, Branislav Ivanovic as a free agent, formerly of Zenit and Chelsea. As for Fulham, they've signed a couple of players here and there. Areola from PSG, formerly Real Madrid as well. Tete from Lyon. They've also brought in Lamina. Knockout as well. That was quite early on. They've made a lot of signings, but we've all put them to go down. First of all, with West Brom. Have you not? Did you not put them? Oh no, you didn't. No, my bad. You didn't put Fulham to go down. Obviously, that's because of Tony Khan. But West Brom, we've all agreed with that one. Not the strongest squad, is it?
No, I think they've just not got a goal scorer, have they? Really, to be perfectly honest, like we watched them against Leicester the other day. They played all right. They played some decent stuff, but defensively, they just look really bad, and they just don't have a goal scorer. Like Charlie Austin is just. He's been a very good servant for any Premier League side he's been at, but for me, they just don't have an out-and-out goal scorer. Like Callum Robinson, he's not that number 9 that will get you 10, 15 goal season to help them stay up.
I think with both these two teams, if I'm saying this as a man who got relegated from this league, they were very lucky to get out of the Championship if you're talking about West Brom, because they did try their best to not get out automatically with the likes of Brentford and Fulham and the teams that were breathing down their necks. So, and when you come up, the gap is getting bigger between the Championship and the Premier League, which is a shame, because I always want to see teams like that become more successful. And I don't think personally they've, one, spent enough money, two, improved enough. And I know they got Grady and Garner back, but I don't think that's going to be enough. But they have got a certain Polish winger that might have enough about him just to keep him in the league.
Well, we don't know who that is. Who could it be? No.
I'm just going to leave it lingering.
I need to start first.
He started against Harrogate Town, thank you very much. Got subbed off after 50 minutes, but we'll leave
that one there.
He put in a shift.
Yeah, exactly.
And as for Fulham, they've done quite the opposite. They've done very similar to what they did when they first came up last time. Made a lot of signings. I'm guessing this time, of course, they've made a lot of signings, but they're not all getting jammed into the squad. But we've seen it before with Fulham. They made a lot of signings last time. They didn't really gel well together, and they went straight back down. Could we see a similar situation this time, or is it just a case of the quality once again of the sides?
No, I think we'll see the exact same. To be perfectly honest, I think they're just. I watched them the other day, and they don't create enough. Like you're looking at the fullbacks, they've got Dennis Adoy still playing. Who was stinking joint last time he played. They've still got bloody Maxime Lamarche on in there. The team's just not good enough. Like Kieran said, the gap between the Championship and the Premier League is always getting bigger. They've made some fantastic signings. Areola is a great signing. Kenny Tete is a great signing. Harrison Reed's a very underrated signing that was really good for him last year, but I think they just don't have enough about him. And the fact that they started bloody Abubakar Kamara over Mitrovic on the weekend, why was that?
I wouldn't be able to say. At least Mitrovic is a goal scorer, so you know he's going to get you at least 10, because that's what Mitrovic does. My worry is when things aren't going the way, that they're going to get rid of Scott Parker, because their owners love a managerial change. They absolutely love getting rid of managers. So I know Scott Parker's like, I say he's a club legend. I think he's more of a Tottenham legend personally. But in terms of, I worry that once things aren't going the way, they'll get a new manager, unrest will begin to set in yet again at Fulham, and it'll be a revolving door of managers until they go down in the Championship, get one that brings them back up, and then we go again in the vicious cycle. It's very Watford-esque, and look how it worked out for them.
But surely, spending this money when you're coming up, like doing almost like a yo-yo effect at this moment. They spent over 100 million last time. Don't know what the figure is this time, but it must be quite high. Surely that can't be good for the financial side of the club.
I think any more years in the Championship, and no, but you do still get the parachute payments. I don't know if you do when you come back up, of course, but you get the parachute payment when you go down. I think I agree with, they spent a lot on the likes of Jean-Michel Seri and Andre Frank Zambo-Anguissa, and they both come back into the team. I know Zambo-Anguissa played the other night. I don't know where Seri is. I don't know where he is.
Seri's set to go.
Is it?
Yeah.
So they spent
That doesn't surprise me.
25.38 so far.
So when you look at it in that sense, they haven't spent nowhere near as much as they did last time, but they have still brought in a lot of players, because I think when you look at the list, Rowan, there's a lot of loans on there, isn't there? Because Ariola's on loan.
Areola, but then
Lamina.
you've got 6 players returning for loans. You've got Serres, Amaguisa, Fabre, and then Bettinelli and Sessegnon and Alfie Mawson as well. But there's only, Lamina and Oliaina.
So there's 3 players there that have come along, and you never know what's going to happen. That's the thing with the Premier League. It's a very interesting league. It's very topsy-turvy in itself, towards the bottom end of the table and the mid-table, and it could be a tough season ahead for these sides. But as always, put your predictions in the comments below for who you think is going to be in the top 4 and for relegation in the Premier League. But we're now going to move on to the final section of the podcast. It is time to predict our top goal scorers in the 5 main leagues. So this is it. This is the last section of the Top Corner podcast today. And as I said a moment ago, we're going to be talking about our major goal scorers. So the way that this one is going to work, you're going to see on the screen in a moment, our predictions for the top goal scorer in the 5 main leagues. You'll see the columns will be going down in terms of the leagues respectively. So we're going to start off with the Premier League on the left-hand side, and I think it ends with La Liga on the right-hand side. So to get it up on your screen, it should come up now. Here we go. So the Premier League we're going to start off with on this one. In terms of our top scorers, we've all gone for different players. Now, I've gone for Mohamed Salah of Liverpool. Kieran D, you've gone for Raheem Sterling of Manchester City. Kieran L has gone for Aubameyang. And Rowan has gone for Aguero. Rowan, we'll start off with you. Aguero, you think that this might be his time to get the top scorer in the Premier League once again?
Yeah. It was a last-minute change because I came into your room and I saw that I put Aubameyang, and I wanted to put Aguero first, and he's just so injury-prone. That's the worry. But a fit Aguero is one of the best strikers in the Premier League, in my opinion. And I'm not going to base it off, he could get injured. I'm basing it off all these goal scorers are fully fit, and for me, a fully fit Aguero will be the top goal scorer.
So it could be Aguero. Kieran L, Aubameyang, fantastic for Arsenal. Just signed a new contract. You think he's going to score lots of goals again? Maybe be top scorer? Why?
Well, because since he's entered the league, no one's scored more goals than he has. So I think that's enough to tell you why. I honestly think he's up there with the best strikers in the world, and he hasn't got enough credit in recent years. He's arguably the best striker in the Premier League, and I truly will back that point against anybody. I think both Harry Kane and Aguero pick up injuries. Yes, we've not seen Aubameyang with an injury yet, so God forbid it doesn't happen, because Arsenal will be in a lot of trouble. But I truly believe he's the best striker in the league. And I don't know about you guys, I've never known a patch where he's really slowed down since he's been here. He's been a consistent goal scorer week in, week out, and that's who you always put your money on. And I know that everyone loves him in fantasy because he's listed as a midfielder.
It's great, isn't it? God bless FPL for doing that. So, as you said, the stat pretty much, he's Mr. Consistent for Arsenal, and maybe we might see another consistent season again where he's at the top of the league in terms of the Golden Boot. Kieran D, you've gone for Raheem Sterling. Interesting choice, this one. Scored plenty of goals last season. You think he's going to score plenty of goals again? Maybe even finish top? Why?
Tapping merchant. No, of course. It is Raheem Sterling. As much as we meme him for that miss against Lyon, he is arguably one of the best players in the Premier League, and he scores 20 goals consistently in a season, every season. I think it's all going to depend on where he plays him. If he plays him on the left or the right, or sometimes he likes to deploy him in the middle if he fancies if he don't fancy playing Jesus. I'm not sure if Aguero is still injured for the start of the Premier League. I'm not sure if Pep has confirmed that, but I think Aguero is a very, very solid pick because when he starts, he's guaranteed goals. Yeah, I'm going for Sterling because I think he'll replicate his season that he had a few seasons ago, and he'll pip Aubameyang by just 1 or 2.
So Raheem Sterling potentially to pip Aubameyang, you never know. And then of course I went for Mohamed Salah. I think if Mohamed Salah cannot be as greedy as he is sometimes, very similar to Sterling in a sense, in terms of what they're both like, in terms of hogging the ball. But I think, me and Rome, we watched that game against Leeds where he scored the hat-trick. Of course, 2 were penalties, but he looked just absolutely outstanding in that match. Unbelievable performance. And I think if he can just be a little bit less greedy on the ball, he'll be maybe up there next season. But if I can see Aubameyang winning it again. I just think he's so consistent that we might see the Gabonese striker potentially go on to win it. But there's still other players like Jamie Vardy who actually won Golden Boot last season. He could potentially be up there again. Danny Ings, Bruno Fernandes with all the penalties. You never know. Miljevic for Palace. God knows, but there's plenty of plenty of players who could be in that Premier League Golden Boot by the end of the season. But we'll move on to our next league. I'll bring the screen back up again with all of the leagues. We're now going to be talking about our Serie A top scorers. So Kieran D and Rowan, you both went for Cristiano Ronaldo. Kieran L, you went for Lautaro Martinez, and I went for Ciro Immobile. We'll start with Cristiano Ronaldo, with Kieran D and Rowan. He's absolutely an exceptional player on his day. You don't have to really talk about him. You think that this year Ronaldo will actually get the Golden Boot?
Yeah.
Go on, Rowan.
I think Immobile is a great shout. I mean, base Ronaldo at the end of the day. But again, it's also if he gels with Pirlo, if it's a bit of a clash. Obviously, Pirlo will play him as Ronaldo, but yeah, you can't not back Ronaldo at some points. But Immobile is a great shout. Immobile.
For Kieran D, why did you go for Ronaldo? Just because it's Ronaldo once again?
I don't think I'll ever back against Cristiano Ronaldo. So his record's shown that he is the best in the world, and the best in the world is going to become top goal scorer again.
Well, that says it all, but unfortunately, the best in the world, it could be Lautaro Martinez, Kieran now. Of course, could be signing a new contract in the next couple of days or weeks, actually, with Inter Milan. Being linked with a move to Barcelona, Real Madrid, any of the big clubs, you name it, he's been linked. You think that this year it could be the Argentinian's opportunity to be the Golden Boot? Why?
Well, I'm with the KD, with the fact that Ronaldo's the best player ever to play the game. He's always been better, in my opinion. And I agree. You know, you never back against the best player in the world. But you do if he's playing in Serie A, because someone, when he entered the league, appears to have a better season. First year it was Quagliarella, out of nowhere. Last year it was Ciro Immobile. So I just think this hoodoo is going to carry on. He's going to have great seasons, but someone's going to outscore him every year. And this year, I'd be wrong. You guys know I'd be wrong if I did not choose Lautaro Martinez, because my love for that man as a striker is unforgiving. So I chose him because, I mean, Inter Milan scored a lot of goals. I think you also want to put some of the Atalanta boys up there because they score a hell of a lot of goals, but they spread them around. Whereas Inter Milan, I truly believe they've got two out-and-out goal scorers. It's Romelu and it's Lautaro. And I'll just think Lautaro legit because of, I'm just going to call it the Serie A hoodoo that Ronaldo has.
So maybe the hoodoo might continue, and I agree with you, Kieran. I've said Ciro Immobile. I think he will score a lot of goals next season. You're probably right. Maybe not to the extent as he did last season. I think it was just unbelievable last year. Absolutely exceptional in his game. Probably a large reason to why Lazio stayed so far up the table, considering how quickly they fell off at the end stages. But I think the hoodoo will continue. I agree with you, Kieran. I think as much as Ronaldo has had exceptional seasons in Serie A, he can't always do it on his own, and he hasn't got as much quality around him sometimes as he did in the Real Madrid side. But I think the hoodoo will continue. Maybe not Immobile, maybe it is Lautaro Martinez, or maybe it could be somebody like a Duvan Zapata or an Ilicic, or somebody like that. Kieran's saying no, he's saying it's Lautaro, but I think Ronaldo will be up there next season. He'll be in the top two for the Golden Boot either way. But that's the Serie A top scorers that we've got. Interesting choices across the board there. And even more interesting, we're now going to move on to Ligue 1. There are 3 choices on the table here. So myself and Kieran D has gone for Kylian Mbappe. Kieran L, you've gone for Ben Yedder. And Rowan, you've gone for Neymar. Now, Neymar already suspended for a couple of matches, so he's going to miss out on a few games because of the red card he got against Marseille. But you never know, Rowan. Why Neymar?
Because after them 6 games, he's going to come out and bang 13 goals in 2 matches or something. We made the predictions for the suspension, didn't we? So it's going to be a lot harder, but it's Neymar. Again, it's sort of similar to the Ronaldo statement. It's Neymar, and Mbappe is the only one who I think will contest him. Ben Yedder is a good shout, but I don't think he has that quality behind him that Neymar and Mbappe do have with each other. And I've only gone for Neymar because it's Neymar. I think Mbappe is looking for a move away, which might mean that he does have a better season. But I've gone for Neymar, in my personal opinion.
So Rowe's gone for Neymar. Luckily, I think he's only 2-match suspension, so it's all right. He won't have to score 13 goals in 2 games. He might only have to score 6, which for Neymar...
He'll do it just for dance.
You never know.
He's mad like that.
I'm pretty sure I can vouch here for KD. We both chose Mbappe on this one. I think he'll be up there again next season. He's just such a good player, and whether he wants to move to another club or not, he's so electric with his pace, and as long as he doesn't get any serious injuries, which, God hope he doesn't, he's just so good on his day. He leaves you speechless, doesn't he, Kieran?
Yeah, he for me is potentially the third best player in the world. That's all I've got to say.
That's it. No, he's just he'll be up there next season. He's so good on his day, and as I said, as long as he doesn't get an injury, very similar to Neymar in that sense. As long as neither of those two get injuries, I think they'll both be up there next season, depending on what happens. And then, of course, there's one more player we've got to talk about. He was up there last season. He was technically joint top with Mbappe. And I definitely agree with you. I do think he'll be up there again next season. He might not have the quality around him, but Ben Yedder, Kieran, is a very good shout indeed. Why did you pick him?
It's the proven track record, to be honest. He has scored goals everywhere he's been, and last year he was really close to kind of being the sole owner of the Golden Boot, and he may very well have done had the league and season resumed. And it's a bit like I've talked about why there's no reason I didn't put any of the Atalanta boys in there, because PSG have got so much talent up top. They've got Icardi, they've got Neymar, they've got Mbappe, they've got Di Maria, who are all going to pitch in. Choupo-Moting, who are all going to pitch up 15 to 20, apart from Eric. So I do think that I know, sorry, Rowan. I think Ben Yedder is the out-and-out goal scorer in this Monaco side, and I don't really see any people coming close to him in that team. It is very much a similar feeling to, I think, Aubameyang in the Arsenal team. They rely on him so much for his goals. So I think he'll end up pipping one of these boys to the post, because PSG score so many, but they like to spread them out to other players on the pitch.
They do indeed, which is why Eric Maxim Choupo-Moting will score 150 rather than 15. But that is the Ligue 1 Golden Boot. 3 choices on the table there. Interesting selections across the board. Now we're going to move on to the Bundesliga. This one, as you can see on your screen right now, yeah, there is a very similar gist across the board. Kieran D, Kieran L, and Rowan, you've all gone for Robert Lewandowski. He was absolutely exceptional last year. Should have won the Ballon d'Or, but they decided to cancel it because, they didn't want Ronaldo or Messi not to win it. Let's be real. It's just blatant lies. But he was just so good last season, and I picked someone different, so we've got somebody else on the table here, but let's be real. He'll probably win it again. Why have you picked him, boys?
Do we even have to say it?
No, not really.
Yeah.
You don't have to be honest. He's just naturally that good, isn't he?
One man who I think contest him is going to be Jadon Sancho. We saw he put up numbers last year for who isn't a striker as well. But yes, Robert Lewandowski. He's got Muller feeding him balls every single game. He's got Gnabry playing on the He's got everything that he needs to become top goal scorer.
He's one of them fine wine strikers, because I truly believe that surely there'd be a drop off at some point, but literally as the years have gone on, he's got more and more of a clinical goal scorer. I think he's got the best movement of any forward in the world. He has, as KD loves to say, he gambles, and it always pays off when he gambles on a cross. But if I went with my heart over my head, I'm going to put Matheus Cunha as top goal scorer, but that is purely my heart.
Well, the thing is, you never know. He's got about 5 different goal scorers alongside him. Maybe 2 up top connecting together. You could see 50 goals in a season. Exactly. So you've all gone for Robert Lewandowski. You'll have seen the screen a moment ago. I've gone for Haaland. As I said, I thought I'd pick somebody else a little bit different. Haaland, he scored 13 goals when he came in after January. Had an absolutely incredible season at RB Salzburg. Came into Dortmund, was electric at the start. Did drop off at the end, which is why, obviously, I do think Lewandowski will win it, but I put Haaland second, because I think Haaland doesn't have nowhere near as much quality of players around him feeding the balls into him. He has got the Sanchos, he has got Royce when he's fit and ready to play. He has got Brandt and Fork and Hazard, but if you realistically compare the players between Bayern and Dortmund, Bayern are just majorly inferior quality-wise, especially when you've got a player like Muller who gets 20 plus assists in a season. But I think if you can get a good run of form going, if he doesn't get any injuries, he was fantastic in the Bundesliga, Haaland, last season. And I think he'll be fantastic again. But like I said, I put him there so we've got a different player on the board. But across the board, Robert Lewandowski is the player we think who's going to get Golden Boot. And, well, it should be a Ballon d'Or as well for him, but they decided not to give it him. So that is the Bundesliga top Golden Boot scorers. We're going on to our final league now, La Liga. Now, this one is a very interesting one because everybody has gone differently across the board. I have gone for Lionel Messi. Kieran D has gone for Depay. Question mark, of course, on that one for now. Kieran L has gone João Felix. And Rowan has gone Benzema. I will start off with Rowan. Karim Benzema. We like to talk about him on the podcast a hell of a lot because he's a good striker on his day. Very underrated, very underappreciated, and a great forward. Why do you think he's going to get a Golden Boot?
I don't think it'll be a lot of goals. I think a lot of the goals this season will be very split. But I've gone Real Madrid to win the league, and I've got to go for this striker. Like we've mentioned him, so I think we did like nearly 20 minutes on like the earlier episodes talking about how important he is to Real Madrid, and I think he'll do it this year. I think it might be 20 max. Really, I don't think there's going to be many goals. Like you're not going to see like a 25 plus top Golden Boot. But I've gone for Real Madrid in the league. I've got to go for Karim.
Interesting choice. I like it. As I said, we do like to talk about Benzema quite a bit. He's a very good striker. Two different choices are on the table now. I went for Lionel Messi. Of course, we know Messi, don't we, to be honest? He'll probably be up there once again this season, both goals and assists. You don't really have to say anything about him. But the other two choices on the table. First choice, I'll talk to you, Kieran, about your choice. You've gone for João Felix. We talked about him earlier, had a large spell out in terms of injuries. It's an interesting and different punt. Why did you go for him?
It's a bold shout. All right, I've got to admit, in reality, it's likely not going to happen. But the only reason, it's a little bit similar to what Rowan said, but unfortunately, Rowan has a world-renowned goal scorer, whereas I have a teenager that's yet to prove it. But he said that he's got Real Madrid winning the league, i.e., he'll have Benzema as the top goal scorer. In my predictions, I have Atletico winning the league, therefore they need to score goals. But as I'm talking about this, I'm realising that Atletico Madrid don't score goals and they actually win their games 1-0. But if in every single game João Felix gets the one goal, he will finish top goal scorer.
Exactly.
So that's the... It was basically, everyone wants to go Messi, in reality, let's be honest. If we're all going to, without taking the stuff away, it's Messi that's going to win it. But if I've got Atletico winning the league, I've got João Felix as top goal scorer, got Simeone as manager of the year, got Thomas Partey winning the Ballon d'Or, it's all going off in Atletico this summer.
I mean, unless Simeone's had a complete change of heart in system, you never know. We could come back in a few weeks' time and say about Atletico Madrid winning every game 5-0 plus, but you never know. That's football. It's a special game. Kieran D.
If Thomas Partey gets nominated for a Ballon d'Or, I'll eat my shoe.
Well, there we go. It has been said by Rowan. We'll keep your word to that. I mean, it'll take about 10 years for that to happen, Rowan, but...
I mean, this year. God.
Oh, this year. Oh, you're going to kind of take a bet on that for the next 5 years or something like that?
Oh, fuck it, go on.
You
know what? If Thomas Partey wins in the next 5 years, I'll eat a full box of shoes.
Oh, it's been said on stream
I'm
now.
not confident he will get nominated.
It's like the Marseille one all over again. Kieran D, you went for Memphis Depay. We put a question mark on this one, of course, because he might be at, still at Lyon next season. Might be at Barcelona. Once again, you've got to back your boy, haven't you? Former Man United player.
No, I've had an absolute Mary, I'm not going to lie. I think I had a few shandies before I predicted this. Honestly, I don't know why I've gone for Memphis Depay, because he might not even go there. I should have just played it safe and gone with Messi, but you know what? I'm bald, I'm out there.
It's a good punt, and do you know what? When we come back at the end of the season and we look at our predictions and we see Memphis Depay has scored, you're going to be, thanking those shandies that you had, that you picked Memphis Depay. You never know. It could be, from what it sounds like in terms of our predictions, it's going to be the most crazy season of La Liga. Simeone is going to have 100 goals, Depay's top goal scorer, and Messi's going to leave. What a year. But that is our Golden Boots predictions for La Liga, and that is our Golden Boot predictions altogether. that is our predictions done for this episode. Honestly, thank you ever so much, Kevin L, Robin, and Kieran D, for joining me as always.
Thank you for having us,
Yeah.
Josh. Before we
Thank you
quickly
very
end it,
much.
I've got one final question.
Go for it.
One bold prediction. One bold that shouldn't happen at all, but there's a chance. I'm going to go for Arminia Bielefeld to get Europa League football. Trust me.
That's
I've
the
got
punt.
faith in the Bielefeld boys.
You never know. It's a bold punt. It's a very bold punt indeed. But if you're a betting man, it's the type of thing that's going to come in, isn't it? Usually, stick a pound on it, and you've got to find out. Actually, for the next episode, we'll find out the odds of what the chances are of Arminia Bielefeld getting into Europe. Because I'm pretty sure you probably can't bet on it because it's so high. But no, honestly, thank you boys for joining me. Keep your eyes out on the channel. There's plenty more content to come as always.
Josh, you just completely skipped over what Rowan said there.
What?
He said one bold prediction from each of us.
Oh, well, while you do that...
I didn't really want to talk about Arminia Bielefeld getting Europa League, John.
That's what I mean.
It was predictions. We
While you try and think of your bold predictions, I'll talk through the stuff that's still on the channel. Gives you time to really focus and think about what your prediction is going to be. Because I thought... See, exactly. You've probably sat there thinking I haven't got one, but there's plenty more stuff still to come on the channel. As always, on a Monday, we have the tier lists with Kieran. What are you going to be doing on your next episode of the tier lists?
Well, we're doing Bundesliga predictions at some point, but we're not sure when. It's been weird because we obviously moved, and then I had work, and then I had work again. Then on Monday I've got work again. So we'll see. We'll see, won't we?
It'll be there at some point. It's going to be like the NFL corner. You're going to have to F5 to check.
Whoa.
All right, it's not that bad.
Oh, well.
It is.
Oh, see, this is it. Fights now. I'm going to have to get through these before they start fighting. The boxing gloves are out. Tuesday, we have the wrestling corner with Simon and Rowan in the early morning. Well, it is early morning, isn't it, compared to most of the episodes on our channel. What are you going to be talking about this week, Rowan?
Well, as the most consistent podcast on the channel, we're trudging along. We've got a couple of weeks now until next pay-per-view, so nothing big. We're just going through the weekly shows. We had a really good match on AEW last night, a very decent episode of NXT as well. So yeah, look forward to that next Tuesday.
That's next Tuesday. Next Wednesday, of course, we'll have the first kind of proper episode of the Top Corner. We're talking through some of last week's results. A couple of changes to the podcast. Keep eyes out. It's going to be pre-recorded, not live. So I think it'll be up around maybe 6 or 7 p.m. UK time on the Wednesday. Thursday, it's the Friday. No, it's
Right.
F5.
Big announcement. We're moving to Fridays permanently.
Friday nights?
We have, honestly, we put in a bid for Friday nights and the transfer's been accepted. We're just doing negotiations now to get the deal done. And then we'll be moving to Fridays permanently for the forthcoming season. So there you go.
So Fridays now.
You'll see Here We Go on the Top Corner Twitter soon.
You will indeed. Who needs Fabrizio Romano?
Yeah, exactly. So we are moving to Fridays now.
So that'll be Friday for the NFL corner. And then we've got plenty more watch-alongs to come as well. That's kind of our new thing. We're going to be looking at doing some NFL watch-alongs, aren't we, soon? That's potentially the next step to look forward to. But in terms of the weekend, we've got West Ham Arsenal, potentially Leeds Fulham. Not guaranteed on that one yet, but West Ham Arsenal is. We've got Chelsea Liverpool, and we've also got Wolves v Man City. So it's a very heavy Premier League weekend of action, but keep eyes out for the watch-alongs over the weekend. But that's all the content on the channel for now. You guys have had some time to make your bold predictions. Kieran, now, what's your bold prediction for the season?
Well, when he says bold prediction, I was wondering if I had to go with something that might actually happen, like, maybe a glimmer of hope, because my original thing was SD Huesca to be the Invincibles, but I thought that was a bit too far. So I decided to go with SD Huesca getting into the Europa League. They've had an unbeaten start, one game in, they've not been beaten yet. So I think they're going to, like Rowan, they're going to get into the Europa League, and brilliant season for the Huesca boys.
Easily doable as well. Easily doable. We'll link a bunch of farmers, apart from West, world class.
Well, this is the thing. What we should do is we should take all 4 of our punts, if it's possible, and find out what the highest odd is out of them all. That should be the punt. And see which one's the biggest punt of them all. put a pound on it. Kieran D, what's your bold punt?
DCL to be top goal scorer in the Premier League.
It's not a bold punt. That is not a bold punt. That's a guarantee.
So
That's
why do you think he's
slander.
top one then?
How many goals do you think he's going to score?
31. Okay.
31. Oh, he's having a season and a half here. Well, at least Rowan's prediction of getting to the top 4 will be sorted out with that. 31 goals this season. Sorted with that one. I'm going to make a punt and say that PSG don't finish in the top 2. That's my bold punt.
That's
Yeah, I
bold punt.
suppose.
If you can count that as a bold punt.
I think,
Yeah.
yeah, I was going to say, it depends if we could go in top 4, because I was about to say Hull will go unbeaten at home all season. And that is actually a bold punt. But
I
I'm
might
going
say
to leave
Harry
it there.
Kewell might have a job for an entire year. Because that's definitely bold.
With the way that Oldemar, that's a bold punt indeed. Jesus.
Who knows?
I tell you
Start
what.
you next week with Harry Kewell. I'm doing a press conference saying I'm fearing for my job. Help me out.
Do you know what? We'll be looking back at the end of the season, and the one with Harry Kewell will be the one with the highest odds. It'd probably be more likely for PSG to finish in third than it is for Harry Kewell to still win his job at the end of the season. But there we go. We've made some very bold punts there. We'll look back at the end of the season probably and realise that none of our bold punts have come off, apart from Dominic Calvert-Lewin scoring 13 Everton in the top 4, which is guaranteed to happen. But honestly, once again, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be back with the Top Corner podcast on Wednesday. For now, it's pre-recorded. We're not going to be doing it live because it's easy for us and we haven't got the studio. But as for now, thank you very much for watching, and we will see you again very soon. Goodbye.